Tianqi Pian, Tianqi Pian Qianyan. Preface to the chapter on Revelations by Xiefeng. The spirit, Tao, of the greatest creator and the universe are inseparable, just as the earth and life are intertwined. The human body's organs, blood and marrow, sensory organs, hair, and consciousness are also interconnected as a whole. The greatest creator has never engaged in direct conversations with any individual in human-created languages. However, this does not mean that the greatest creator is distant from humanity. The greatest creator is constantly in dialogue with humans, but the form of communication is not through our human languages. Instead, it occurs through the language of the greatest creator. All things in the natural world are the language of the greatest creator, and all phenomena in nature are the utterances of the greatest creator. The sun, moon, stars, rivers, lakes, oceans, wind, clouds, rain, snow, humans, animals, birds, insects, trees, flowers, mountains, rocks, and the earth itself are all the language of the greatest creator. The movements of celestial bodies, the rushing of rivers, the roaring of the sea, the changing of weather, the falling of rain and snow, the shifting of seasons, the growth and decline of living beings, including the chirping of insects, the calls of birds, the shouts of humans, the neighing of horses, earthquakes, floods, thunderstorms, and lightning are all the speech of the greatest creator. Everything that humans perceive through their eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body is the language and speech of the greatest creator. To understand the language of the greatest creator and comprehend his speech, one cannot rely solely on sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. It requires spiritual perception, but spiritual perception alone is not enough. Wisdom is also necessary. Without spiritual perception, we will never understand the language and speech of the greatest creator, and without wisdom, we will never grasp what the greatest creator is saying. Having spiritual perception alone without wisdom, we can only sense the presence of the greatest creator but cannot accurately understand the workings of the greatest creator's spirit, Tao. In other words, we may only know that we are destined to live and destined to die, but we are unclear about the reasons why we exist and why we must face death. This is referred to as knowing the what, but not knowing the why. Having wisdom alone without spiritual perception, we cannot truly perceive the existence of the greatest creator. We can only rely on accumulated human knowledge, experience, lessons, rigorous logical reasoning, and scientific experiments to uncover some mysteries of the universe, nature, and life. In other words, we may understand why we live and why we die, but we cannot comprehend the ultimate reasons behind the necessity of life and death. This is referred to as knowing the why, but not knowing the what. With the exception of a very small number of individuals who possess both spiritual perception and wisdom, generally speaking, religious figures have spiritual perception but lack wisdom, while scientists have wisdom but lack spiritual perception. The majority of the general population, who fall between these two categories, lack both spiritual perception and wisdom. They merely exist blindly, living their lives without a clear sense of purpose. The chapter of Revelations is the divine revelation given to me by the greatest creator. Before completing the chapters on unconventional thinking, the greatest creator, universe, time and space, humanity and human life, self-improvement, self-cultivation, and physical and spiritual health care, it is necessary to first complete Revelations. However, considering that Revelations directly involves the mysteries and secrets of the universe, it could pose significant risks if known by individuals with malicious intentions. It is akin to nuclear weapons. If in the hands of peace-loving individuals, they can deter those who seek to cause war and unrest, instill fear in them, and prevent their recklessness. But if controlled by evil individuals, humanity will suffer greatly. Jesus warned me, "Do not give holy things to dogs, nor cast pearls before swine." The Buddha enlightened me, "Speak for the Mahayana practitioners." The spirit of Laozi advised me, Tao, when obtained by a noble person, becomes the foundation of their self-cultivation, while when obtained by a petty person, it is treated lightly and without reverence for life. What should I do? I must heed the admonitions of gods, Buddhas, and immortals. However, in the vast sea of humanity, it is impractical for me to individually seek out noble individuals who practice the Mahayana path. Moreover, time is limited, and I don't have much time to patiently guide each person. Therefore, I have no choice but to follow the doctrine of the mean and adopt a middle path. I will conceal the mysteries and secrets beneath the surface of phenomena, only hinting at them. This way, those who possess spirituality and wisdom can see beyond the surface, transcend the vastness, and more easily discover the gems and gold beneath the earth's surface. As for the rest of the people, they will be like what Jesus said, though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not hear or understand. In addition to Revelations and the other mentioned chapters, there is another chapter in Life of Chanyuan called the Preaching of the Tao. This chapter is entirely different from the Tao Te Ching, and it can be said without exaggeration that the wisdom contained in the preaching of the Tao far surpasses that of the Tao Te Ching. For instance, when it comes to beings who are destined for or already in hell, Jesus' attitude is, lest they repent and be forgiven. On the other hand, in Buddhism, Bodhisattva Ksitigarbha vows, I vow to save all sentient beings in the world, and I will not enter the Elysium world until hell is empty. Who is right and who is wrong? Whose guidance should we ultimately follow? Preaching of the Tao specifically addresses such challenging questions. However, the timing is not ripe at the moment. Only when Life of Chanyuan is widely accepted by all human beings can preaching of the Tao be shared openly. It is similar to constructing a building where exquisite chandeliers cannot be hung until the main structure is completed. Laozi said, when the highest type of followers hears Tao, the truth, they try hard to live in accordance with it. When mediocre types hear Tao, they seem to be aware and yet unaware of it. When the lowest types hear Tao, they break into loud laughter. If it is not laughed at, it is not Tao. Regarding the chapter of Revelations, those who understand will discern its true essence, while those who do not will merely spectate. Apart from that, I have nothing else to discuss. 人生需要一条跑道. Life needs a track. Xiefeng. February 27, 2007. Edited by Kayer. Many talented people living among us appear to be mediocre, not because they are of low intelligence or are not gifted, but because they have either not found their own tracks or they have taken the wrong ones. Everyone has unlimited potential, but the main reason for not having given play to their potential is not because they are born stupid or have insufficient mental skills, but because they have never found their best life track from start to finish. No matter how excellent an aircraft is, it will never fly if there is no runway, for an aircraft with no runway will never be more than a pile of metal. No matter how much potential an excellent sprinter or long-distance runner has, his or her talents would remain buried without a racetrack, knowing not whether they are a mediocre horse or a swift horse until death. Life needs a track, and battlefields, business markets, officialdom, farms, and social realms all have lots of them. We must choose the track that best suits us, because it is only with the right track that we can give full play to our talents. Generals Eisenhower and Patton demonstrated their outstanding military talents because they had the track of war, but if there had been no tracks of war, who would even know their names? Zhu Jun, Yang Lan, and Ai Ping, and others have become the focus of millions of people, sparkling with brilliance, simply because they shared the track of television. Who would they otherwise be? Jet Li and Andy Lau rose to fame far and wide simply because of the track of movies. Throughout the history of Communist Party of China, many outstanding politicians, strategists, and diplomatic talents have emerged and many commoners became generals. It was because they took the track of the communist movement that they had brilliant lives. But without this track, their talents would have been drowned in life's ocean. Many people turned onto this track and formed the backbone of the state, and many others became millionaires or even billionaires because they took the business track after China's reform, when it opened up, and they gained much wealth. But what would their lives be like today without this track? Nobody knows. Many eminent Buddhist monks showed their superior wisdom because they followed the track of Buddhism. If you want to make something out of life, you must choose a track that suits your personality, because you cannot give play to your talents without the right track. Without the correct track, you will drown in the crowd. The internet is a track, and many people are shining with brilliance upon it, creating their own blogs and gathering their own social connections. A large number of authors, writers, critics, and practitioners are emerging on this track and are demonstrating their talents. You have to find your track, but if you do not see the proper one, you should build your own. Why? Because you will play better, be better at the game of life, and make your life more colorful. Do not pretend to be aloof and say that you are too good to engage in this, because that would be finding excuses for your incompetence and failures. A soldier who does not want to be a general is never a good soldier. A life that does not want to have a glorious course is never a good life. If you want to make big money, be the boss. For being the boss is the track to making the most money, and if you want to be an official, build your social connections. For building social connections is the track to being an official. There are numerous tracks, and they are everywhere, but if you want to play your talents to the maximum, you will have to choose a track with infinite prospect. If you choose a good track, you can have a good life, but if you choose a bad track, you can only have a bad life. Zhang Guotao abandoned the track of the Communist Party and eventually, unknowingly froze to death. On the other hand, Deng Xiaoping stuck with the track of the Communist Party and eventually had his wishes fulfilled. If you choose polishing shoes, then you will unconsciously be on the track of polishing shoes. If you choose to steal, then you will unconsciously be on the track of crime. If you choose to reap without sowing, then you will, over time, get on a greedy, selfish, and parasite track. If you choose a mass movement, you will be on the track of confronting the government. If you choose Life Genuine, then you are naturally taking on the track of trekking and climbing to the highest realm of life and life. Which is the best track? It depends on you. You must choose your track completely on your own. The best track is one that you can follow for a lifetime. Tracks can be regularly replaced if they are not good, because some tracks have no futures and lead to dead ends with steep precipices. You will have to sharpen your eyes to think and judge. Some tracks seem narrow and bumpy at first, but the more you walk on them, the broader, brighter, and more brilliant they become, while others look broad, densely populated, and big. Yet the more you walk on them, the more your feet hurt, you become confused and frustrated, and the narrower and darker they become. If you have the ability to rule a country, the ambition to ride on top of the world, and have both superintelligence and indomitable willpower, then you had better build your own track. If you do not, then you can borrow others' ready-made tracks. For example, instead of creating your own blogs with few hits, you might want to promote your ideas and display your talents on another's website or bulletin board. Instead of creating your own website with painstaking care and precision, yet having no visitors, you might as well demonstrate your skills on someone else's websites. Once you have chosen your track, you must not give it up too easily, for giving up means failure. Remember, 1,000 sails pass by the shipwreck and 10,000 saplings thrive beyond the withered tree. No one will sympathize with you if you fail. At most, they will express regrets and pity. Once you find that your track has no future, you must give it up as soon as possible and try to blend onto the track with the most brilliant prospects at once, because if you bite the bullet and play hard, you will only miss your opportunity and then grieve it for a lifetime. Remember, the earth will rotate the same, with or without you. A life needs a track. As long as the route is right, you can stride ahead. I hope you follow your splendid life track. 人生的主次先后，轻重缓急. Priorities, the order of importance and the emergence of life. By Xiefeng. From the long-term perspective, we know that each life lasts for only a fleeting moment. Regardless of how capable we might be, we are incapable of escaping our inexorable doom. How to spend this fleeting life is a question deserving our serious consideration and discussion. Look at life from the perspective of life. Life is only a journey, a flash of light in the infinite time and space of life. Since life is so transient, we need to explore the routes and risks of our journey. What kind of life is the most beautiful? As we are all people, we must first consider how to be people. The greatest creator of the universe, created us and meant for us to be people, not ghosts, devils, celestial beings, Buddhas, or gods. If we surrender our humanness to devote our life, time, and energy to becoming higher forms, then we are doing it against the will of the greatest creator. It is only when we first conduct ourselves as people living by the will of the greatest creator that we can hope to attain Buddhahood at the end of our life's journey. It is as if the boss of a company hires someone to be a clerk. The clerk's purpose is to dedicate his efforts toward his own duty, not to ask his boss to consider him to be a section chief, because it is only after he performs his clerk's duties well that the company boss should offer him the opportunity to be promoted to the position of section chief. The intent of the greatest creator in creating us is to enjoy life and not to make us suffer at all. Because for human beings, the greatest creator is love, great love. I do not worship men of the hour or heroes who gallop onto battlefields, nor do I worship those great people who are admired by the masses, or the ordinary people who become Buddhas and gods of the mortal world. I only pay tribute to ordinary, simple, honest, and hardworking people, because those people's lives conform to the way of being mankind. Those who sacrifice their present life pleasures to focus on grace after death do so against Tao. The moralization teachings that people can only obtain well-being after going through affliction and suffering definitely leads them astray. The preaching that asks people to cultivate achievements with intensity, regardless of their family responsibilities, in an attempt to attain special magical powers and arts to glorify the mortal world is questionable. Could it be the devil's temptation? The practice of hyping celebrities, successful figures, distinguished scientists, outstanding entrepreneurs, millionaires, experts, emperors, great men, and heroes will prove to be disturbing, causing people to crowd onto the single-plank bridge and to forget the meaning of life. The benevolent see benevolence, and the wise see wisdom. Life Genuine preaches that the ordinary life is the best life. Life's priorities and orders of importance and emergence should be as follows. The paramount thing in life is to revere the greatest creator, which mainly embodies reverence of nature and reverence of life. If we consider nature as appendages that can be arbitrarily spoiled, treat life, including animals, beasts, insects, fish, trees, flowers, and grass, as dirt, then we are defying and profaning the greatest creator. Our life is one of evil and is doomed to extinction, and we can no longer have a bright future. The first thing to consider and pursue in life is the beauty of the soul, rather than the accumulation of power, money, fame, and desirable people. If one's mind is not beautiful and their soul is dirty, then their life is bound to slip into hell, they are bound to keep company with devils and demons, and their life is a definite failure. The most important thing in life is to explore the mysteries of the universe and the meaning of life. The greatest creator always rewards the wise who have spiritual natures and wisdom and offers them wonderful spiritual enjoyment. If we affix our eyes only to the limited time and space, or even on meeting the needs of our lust, then we are bound to be lost and the water of life will evaporate. The most urgent questions in life are how to elevate the non-material structure of life, its spiritual nature, toward the development of higher life space directions, and how to sublimate our personalities and to perfect our spiritual natures. None of us know what will happen tomorrow. One certain thing is that our life structures will determine the life endings we will have. Everything in life should revolve around this point, because if we die tomorrow, all that we own in the mortal world will be gone. All of our efforts will be in vain, and our precious lives will go wasted for nothing. I am talking about the great way of life. You may take time to think about this. Xiefeng is of no importance, but what is important is that Life Genuine can lead a person's life into an infinitely wonderful world. 寻找人生的最佳坐标系和坐标点. Find the best coordinate system and the best coordinate points of life. Xiefeng. Edited by Kayer. This article was inspired by the annotation to the Analects, Shui Er, verse I. Once the roots are established, the way will grow therefrom. Having roots is the way to be human and how to learn about the universe. If you understand how to be human, you can lay the foundation to understand about heaven and the earth. If you do not understand how to be human, it will be difficult to learn about heaven and the earth. What is the way to be human? In my humble opinion, we must first understand our place in the time and space of the universe. Namely, that you are neither God, Buddha, a celestial being, a ghost, a devil, nor a beast, but that you are a mortal human. Knowing that you are a human, you need to do human things, speak human words, take the human way, and seek human business. You should not do ghostly things, speak the God's words, take the devil's way, or engage in absurd businesses? How does one do human things? Show filial piety to your parents, respect your teachers and seniors, care for the young and lonely, help your siblings, show concern for your relatives and neighbors, show compassion to plants and insects, and protect the landscape and the environment. These are human things, and anything that is contrary to them is inhuman. How does one speak human words? Consider if others were in your place and speak respectfully. Do not spread unsubstantiated rumors. Help others to resolve their differences and bring them peace. Advise others to do good things and not to go astray. Motivate people to make progress and fight for their futures. How does one take the human way? Be committed to your own duties. Manage your household with diligence and thrift. Be studious and make progress. Cast off your destructive habits. Take only what is right for you. Study that which is worthy of being studied. Take only the way of Tao, and do nothing against righteousness. How does one practice human business? Engage in farming, forestry, industry, commerce, or politics. They are human businesses. Human business is the foundation of social stability, and it underlies the success or failure of the family and the state. People who actively participate in these endeavors and pursuits are doing human business. If it is not a human business, even if it can bring you much quick wealth, do not do it. How does one avoid doing ghostly things? By not being sneaky and afraid of being found out by victims or the legal system, doing things that are offensive to heaven and reason, cheating a superior or deceiving a subordinate, dishonoring one's parents, bullying the young and the weak, wrongly accusing and murdering the good and virtuous, insulting the sovereign, duping the ignorant, speaking ill of one's peers, bearing false witness, rebelling against the clan leader, taking credit for the work of subordinates by bullying them, seeking favor by flattering, disrespecting one's countrymen, disrupting state affairs, rewarding unjust acts, harming and implicating the innocent, slandering the saints and sages, undermining morality, filling the cave and covering the nest, harming conception and breaking eggs, stealing others' achievements, discrediting their good conduct, disclosing their indecent secrets, injuring their appearance, separating children from their parents, wasting other people's money and resources, engaging in illegal conduct, forcing young girls to prostitute themselves, damaging marriages, taking away people's beloved, harboring murderous hearts, blaming others, desecrating ancestral graves, destroying homes, deluding with heretical doctrines, bewitching minds, talking about ghosts and monsters, or by poisoning the spirituality. These are some of nearly 100 items enumerated in Life Genuine, Life and Life's Track. How does one not speak the God's words? They are the words of gods in heaven and are unknown to those who have not attained Tao. And even those who have attained Tao must be very knowledgeable about the truths of the universe. It is not something that ordinary people can understand. If you do not know how to be human but speak the God's words, then you are either talking nonsense or you have lost your mind. How does one not take the devil's way? By not misleading living beings, pursuing special magic arts and powers, inciting to rebel, promoting tyranny, touting heroes, singing the praises of totalitarianism, teaching others not to do the things of ordinary people, and other heterodoxical doctrines. All these are the devil's ways. How does one not engage in deluded businesses? By not farming their own land but still expecting wealth to arrive, not working but scamming, not studying or learning but expecting to know, not attending to their own business but wanting everything, being the blade of grass that wants to be a flower, the flower that wants to be in the orchard, the tiger that wants wings, or the bandit who want to be a deity celestial being. All these are absurd businesses. If roots are not established, then everything will be void, but if roots are established, then everything will be done. First be a person, then be a lady or gentleman. After that, follow the examples of the saints and sages, and then pursue the way to become a deity celestial being. Alas, the secrets of the Great Way are hidden to most people, but they reveal themselves to those who are enlightened. After seeking the Great Way everywhere for 3,000 years, it still hides in narrow margins. Therefore, to be a human being is the best coordinate system and the coordinate points of life. 感恩升华生命的第一要素. Gratitude, the first element of life's sublimation. Xiefeng. Deformities lack beauty and make us feel unutterably upset and irritable or even disgusting. This is not a man-made feeling, but an instinctive rejection response like a physical allergic reaction to certain substances. Those without gratitude have deformed life structures, and this is the reason why we dislike and even hate some people. Life is a non-material structure which can be either deformed and unbalanced or perfect and symmetrical. Lives with more perfect and symmetric structures live in higher spaces of life, while lives with more deformed structures live in lower ones. All animals have life structures which are less perfect than those of human beings, so they can only survive at animal levels, while humans with perfect human natures and standards are celestial beings and live in higher level spaces such as the 1,000-year world and the 10,000-year world because their life structures are superior to those of mortals and deities. It is like gases that exist at different levels of the atmosphere: the troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, ionosphere, and exosphere. Life's ultimate goal is to evolve into higher-level spaces of life which result from the sublimation of one's life. This sublimation of life means letting one's own life, non-material structure transit into perfection. How does one transit? Gratitude. Who and what should we be grateful for? Here are 8 with reasons for each. Thank the greatest creator for giving us bright eyes to enjoy our beautiful universe with starry skies, rivers, lands, and all the trees and flowers. Ears to enjoy the splendid melodies of the nature. Love and affection between men and women to enjoy physical and emotional pleasures which are blissful slices of heaven. Who designed and created the free but invaluable air and rivers of pure water, and who allows our easy survival and reproduction. We are bathed in sunlight and moistened by rain and dew. So how could we not thank the greatest creator? Thank Jesus Christ for his favor when he came into the mortal world to atone for us with his precious life and brought hope to our suffering lives. Then thank Buddha, Muhammad, PBUH, and Lao Tzu for their favor. Their wisdom resolves our inner sadness, sublimates our humanity, maintains our human dignity, and gives us inexhaustible and precious spiritual values. Thank your parents for their kindness, who exerted tremendous effort to bring you up, whose love is so heavy that even a green mountain cannot carry it, and even time and space cannot extinguish it. Thank your children for the joy that they brought to you. Thank your friends and relatives for their encouragement, comfort, and help when you were in trouble. Thank your teachers for their hard cultivation. You see because you stand on their shoulders. Thank people with high ideals for drawing their swords and rendering help to you during emergencies. Thank your colleagues, classmates, and even strangers for their sincere praise and cooperation. Real happiness belongs to appreciative givers of thanks. Real light belongs to them, and bright futures belong to them. Those who are without gratitude, have no love in their hearts, never repent, are short of humanity, and only fall into the evil wallows of power, money, and fame, will never attain the chance to ascend to a higher space of life. It is by giving thanks daily that we can be bathed in the spirit of the greatest creator. Our life's non-material structure can ceaselessly evolve into perfection, and we can finally achieve the quality of becoming celestial beings. Comrades, learn gratitude. Even dogs know how to wag their tails to give thanks. Are we not as good as dogs? 真理, 天启篇之57. The Truth. Xiefeng. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. Pontius Pilate, the powerful Roman governor, asked Jesus, "What is truth?" Jesus declared, "I was born for truth. I have come to the mortal world to give the truth. I have witnessed the truth. Hundreds of millions of people have sought and died for the truth. So what is truth?" Democritus, known to be the greatest ancient philosopher, said, "The truth is inscrutable." The most revered Socrates said, "What I really know is that I know nothing." The French philosopher René Descartes argued that only one undeniable truth exists. Ego cogito, ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. John Spall, governor of the Episcopal Church of the United States, said, "Absolute truth is something to which we may aspire, but that we can never attain." Influenced by Albert Einstein's theory of relativity, many people believe that truth is relative. Many religious organizations claim to be sole possessors of absolute truth. What is truth? Jesus said, "The Word of God is truth." Sakyamuni preached for 49, 49 years. The core of his preaching was but one word, Tao. Lao Tzu mainly repeats one word throughout his Tao Te Ching, Tao. The Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, said, Allah's ruling is based on Tao, truth. Confucius, the great sage of the Chinese nation, thought intensely and sought the truth for a lifetime. He finally grasped the core of Tao as he sighed and said, having heard Tao in the morning, one may die content in the evening. Life Genuine tells people again and again to take the way of the greatest creator. Why is Tao so important? Because Tao is truth and the truth is Tao. Both are the same. That is the reason why God, Buddha, the prophets, celestial beings, and saints have attached such great importance to Tao. In other words, they told us to follow the truth. Truth is truth. There is no absolute truth or relative truth. Truth can be described in eight ways. Truth is not optional. Truth is oneness without ambiguity. Truth is eternal, so there is no truth in the past, present, or future. Truth can be known but cannot be made. Truth is what scientists try to reveal. Truth comes to the Chinese Zen masters, unspeakable but subtle metaphysics to be awakened in the mind. All religions profess to uphold the truth, but they actually contradict it. All parties appear to uphold the truth, but they actually oppose it. Everything in the universe, including humanity, floats in an ocean of truth. Truth has eight attributes: emptiness, universality, trust, reliability, naturalness, justice, kindness, uniqueness, eternity. Let us expand on each of these attributes. Emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. Form does not differ from emptiness. Form is emptiness, and its very emptiness is form. Whatever emptiness is, that is form. Form comes from emptiness, and emptiness is Tao, the truth. Universality. All visible objects in the universe, including all living beings, originate from Tao but are the metaplasia of Tao. This is to say that all manifestations of the universe are the embodiment of truth, so truth is everything. Trust, reliability, all the laws of nature are manifestations of truth. They exist and run without the will of mankind. All laws are of conservation, reliability, and dependability, so truth is trust. If one does not keep their word, but lies or breaks their word, they will be acting against the truth. Naturalness. Truth is natural and undoubtedly logical. When fruits fall off trees after they ripen, things are managed easily. Truth is true, not false. People can know it, but cannot create it, and we can neither add to it nor reduce anything from it. If a person or an organization controls themselves with importunity, then they will be acting against the truth. As to a person, regardless of their birth, age, health, or even after death, whether they are rich or poor, and no matter how high or low their status ever was, as long as they have led a natural life without importunity, then they have taken the way of truth. The dying who would rather live, the living who would rather die, the poor who are not content in their poverty, and the rich who are not content with their wealth all act against the truth. Justice. Truth is equal for all things and people, and does not favor anything or anyone, just as death and air are fair and equal to everything and everyone. This is to say that anyone, regardless of their religious faith or party affiliation, no matter whether they are a doctor or illiterate, whether they are a tycoon or poor, and no matter whether they are the president or a shepherd, is equal before the truth. Everyone has the same opportunity to learn the truth and to take the way of the truth. Kindness. We already know that truth is Tao, the consciousness and spirit of the greatest creator. Therefore, truth is alive. Those who come close to the truth will feel natural and cordial as if returning to their hometown from long ago, and will feel sure-footed, calm, and comfortable. Uniqueness. Truth is meticulous and unique. There is no near truth or semi-truth. 10,000 roads lead to the same and only truth, but never lead to thousands of truths. All roads may lead to Rome, but Rome is the one and only Rome. Eternity. Since Wuji generate Taiji, truth has existed eternally. Even if the earth and mankind were to disappear, truth would still exist. As long as there is truth, there is eternal life in the universe. The universe is filled with truth and with life. Life exists not only on earth, but also elsewhere, only in different forms. The Encyclopedia of the United States says, "The truth is often revolting, for it neither supports prejudice nor follows rumor, so that which causes people disgust is against the majority view, and sets people away is most likely to be the truth. The gate of truth is narrow, and only a few will find it and pass through it. Truth can only be known to a few people, for it is lost to the boisterous and noisy. It is a priceless treasure and the top priority to seek, to know, and to respect in life, for anyone who does will attain eternal life and will reach the high-level life spaces such as the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, or the Elysium world. Just take time to comprehend. 走出心灵的埃及 Out of the Egypt of the Spirit. Xiefeng. The ancient Israelites were delivered out of Egypt with God's help, out of slavery and into freedom. Egypt is defined as the land of slavery, and the believers could only rid themselves of slavery by going out from Egypt. Where is our real Egypt? It lies within our hearts. It is easy for the body to be out of Egypt, but it is much harder to discard it from the mind. We all suffer from the slavery of the Egypt of the Spirit in various degrees, and we lead our lives with the Egypt of the Spirit on different levels. You are a slave to your own Egypt of the Spirit because you have not felt the breath of the new era. An unimaginable era is coming. A wave of energy will reach from the universe to the earth. Its prediction has been shown. When this wave reaches the entire earth, only those who are out of the Egypt of the Spirit will be able to survive it, for their common frequency will resonate with it, and those who remain within the Egypt of the Spirit, those who cannot resonate with this wave, will completely disappear from the earth. I, Dayform Buddha, have come here to inform you, to give you this sacred inspiration, and to lead you out of the Egypt of the Spirit and into the new Life-Genuine era. You should never resist me, for the consequence of such resistance will be your death. I depend on divine power, the love of Jesus Christ for human beings, the profound wisdom of Sakyamuni Buddha, the great ideal of Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, the profound and lasting meaning of Fairy Lao Tzu, and the great mercy of Mao Zedong, who tried to liberate all the poor people who suffer from oppression and deprivation at the bottom. They must all focus on me and came together to form a magnificent picture, a mysterious force which is the strongest and the softest dark energy in the universe, able to withstand all the sludge and turbidity that will lead the people out of the Egypt of the Spirit, but who are pleasing to the greatest Creator and who are into the new Life-Genuine era. I, Dayform Buddha, by the revelation of the greatest Creator, do face all earthly citizens equally today, regardless of your sect, party, organization, nationality, or race, whether you are a king, a president, a civilian, or a prisoner, and no matter what your magnificent feats or unforgivable sins in the past have been, will treat all of you equally. You have an equal opportunity to accept this information and to have an equal opportunity to be out of the Egypt of the Spirit. You must not resist me. Upon learning this information, you must think it over quietly, digest it carefully, and sensitize yourself deeply. I will take nothing from you, place no chains upon you, and force no compliance out of you. Instead, I will lead you out of the Egypt of the Spirit and into the new Life-Genuine era to enjoy the finest life with the maximum freedom. See the leaves falling. They should have felt the winter coming. See the willow becoming green by the river. It should have heard the footsteps of spring approaching. You do not have much time to waste. I want you to set all your inflexibility aside to no longer attack each other, and to waste no more time trying to overthrow political parties and regimes. Do not adhere to the opinion that we are right, they are wrong, because you have to think about your future. You can keep to your beliefs and faiths, but at the same time, you need to master the new knowledge and the new information as soon as possible and never to regard your own belief and faith as the only correct one. You must also not hold the feeling of being able to offer salvation because you have neither enough wisdom nor enough energy. Not only do you not understand the non-material world, but neither can you make the correct judgment nor choice with what happens in your own home. Live on the eve of great changes, you should feel joy and happiness and neither fear nor worry because you have a chance to enter a new era by your own efforts. Do not blaspheme my words, for unhealthy words will hurt and eventually destroy you with a precision. But this is not me, for I am neither ego nor non-ego. The greatest classics are still the Bible, the Quran, the Buddhist scriptures, and the Tao Te Ching. You have to admire Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, PBUH, and Lao Tzu in your heart. Before you read these four classics, you had better not say more or judge anything because what you would say could never equal to their wisdom. What you would say would be nonsense before you understand these classics, which run in the opposite direction. The majority of people skim across the surfaces of things. You do not see the colossal forces below that support the icebergs above, and you think you are performing deeds of merit, but the truth might just be the opposite and you are actually sinning. I believe that you possess kindness, but kindness without great wisdom will more often than not lead to bad results. Taiji Celestial, the living messenger of Jesus, teaches us how much you have known of Tao and how much you can preach. Never judge or comment on things of which you do not know. Do not be an apologist, but be a preacher. Do not use any of these sentences or paragraphs to threaten or intimidate others, or you might be threatening and frightening yourself unless you can answer a series of questions from others. Family, nationality, race, party, and religion are the Egypt of the spirit. So you must walk out and just keep the greatest creator and your parents as your sacred territory. Do not rack your brains for your own family, nationality, party, race, or religion. It is helpless. It will not benefit humanity and is selfish behavior. These things will not exist in the coming Life-Genuine era. Do not sacrifice for things that are about to disappear. You need to have the courage to fail, to forgive the people who hurt you, and to make your mind up to surrender the mindset of a vengeful and hateful attitude. This kind of attitude is helpless in the sublimation of your life quality, but it will distort your soul and evolve the structure of your life into false, ugliness, and evil. As a conclusion, even trotting our enemies under our feet and killing them is helpless for the evolution of our spirits toward truth, kindness, and beauty. If people do not forgive others, but just want to satisfy their vanity, get some small psychological satisfaction, and have revenge followed by more revenge, the whole human psyche will be trapped in a vicious cycle and never find peace. The greatest creator is pleased by people who revere him. Jesus, Buddha, and Muhammad, peace be upon them, were fond of their loyal disciples, and I, Deiform Buddha, also like those who can be my friends, and I am willing to give the visas of life to those who are willing to be my friends. These visas of life sound ridiculous at first and seem to be nonsense. However, have you ever considered that life is a kind of non-material structure? If our spirit is sensitive enough, we can enter sesame seeds and go forward negative 10,000 kilometers to its center, and we can understand the meanings of life to see its structure. Quantum mechanics and string theory cannot explain the true meaning of life. Einstein and generations of master of scientists have tried to establish a unified field theory, but they have all ultimately failed. The reason is that they never understood the structure of non-material. What kind of life you lead depends on the attitude that you keep. It was said by Taiji Celestial that your state of life depends on your mode of thinking. Although this is true, it is not profound philosophy. It is reasonable and is easy to understand. Understand that you are able to understand the full meaning of the visas of life. The visas of life are kinds of non-material that will be directly embedded into the structure of the non-material substance of your life, speed up the evolution for the structure of your life to be perfect and symmetrical, put colorful halos around the structure of your life, and protect you in your race along the space tunnel toward the high-level space of life. The soul is total existence, non-material without weight. Bodies will die, but souls will never die. The soul goes through the universe at negative relativistic speed, but man does not understand this. The moment you die, you will become aware that you are not dead, but that you have only abandoned your body as your life carrier, but have taken on board another life carrier to begin a new life voyage. When I say that one who remains in the Egypt of the spirit will disappear from the earth, I do not mean that their life will end, just their life on earth. You will have no chance to enjoy the sun, the sea, white clouds, or blue skies. You will bid farewell to your loved ones, and you will never see them again. You do not understand this now, and it is only at the moment of death that you will. However, it will be too late by then, and your regret will be eternal. Every word in this article is true. You can validate them from the perspectives of religion, classical thought, science, telepathy, from the perspective of logical reasoning, and from all the facts that can be found. It is not only your good fortune to learn the content of this article, it is also your destiny, and I am very glad for you. If you are willing to understand something special, be grateful to the greatest creator. All glory goes to the greatest creator and none goes to Deiform Buddha. And if you share or discuss this information with others, you must always pay tribute to the greatest creator, but never to Deiform Buddha. It would be blasphemous to deify Deiform Buddha, for you and all others would be led astray. If you are offended by this article and think it is heresy, you are innocent. Never doubt the word of the greatest creator, but place all the blame to me. I accept all the responsibility for it and for all who accept it. From where it has come to where it returns. It is demanded that once you read this article, you must pass it on to others without omitting a single word. You may print it or send it as email, but never keep it to yourself. Never cut off the lifeline to other people. If you were to do that, you would have to pay a high price for the lives of others, for this is a curse. If this article is true, you will achieve merit and virtues for spreading it, but if it is evil, you will be held as blameless and without harm for sending it out in its entirety. If you can repost this article onto other websites or even publish it in newspapers or magazines, it would elevate your merit and virtues absolutely. One day you will understand the benefits of the merit and virtues. Why not just lift a finger and do it? A slight error in thought may lead to either paradise or to hell. We hope that everybody will escape from the disaster and enter into the new Life-Genuine era. 最小阻力原则 Taking the principle of least resistance. Xiefeng. A watermelon that is picked violently will not be sweet, and a person acting under duress does not perform efficiently. Rowing a boat down a river is better than sailing up against the current, and buying a needle is better than grinding an iron rod into one. Enjoying hardships is better than struggling against them. So rather than forcing yourself to fight, you should just submit and relax. Cleaning the earth is better than terraforming Mars. Strengthening a nation is better than building the Great Wall. Dredging smoothly is better than preventing forcibly. Feeding a dog is better than training a pig to become one. And singing the praises of the living is better than flattering the dead. Use your head to create knowledge rather than to defend dogma. Using local materials makes more sense than importing them from across the ocean, but if none are available, it is better to move to another place. Obey nature and swim with the tide because everything changes, and do not store rotten apples. When the east is dark, the west will be bright. If it is dark in the south, there will be light in the north. People who were not raised here have obviously been raised over there. Change with the opportunity and take things as they come. Never complain about poverty when you are safe and well-fed. Never miss having meat when you have bread. Little birds that prefer to nest in the woods do not need to take to flying lessons from swans. One whose heart is not content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. An inflated desire will cause trouble, but a mind without material desire will remain calm. Ambition to fame may cause bitter revile. No diamond, no porcelain work. There is no need to force one to learn to play the piano if they were not born to love its music. It is vain to dream of singing beautifully without being able to carry even a simple tune. Never mind when you are reviled as bullshit. There is no need to be modest when you are praised as an expert or master. The flower blooms today, but protect its leaves or it will wilt tomorrow. It would be awful to miss the blooming season, for it will be lost when winter comes. You are loved and appreciated. That is a God-given opportunity, so why be cold and distant? The time to achieve your dream with God's blessing is when you are regarded as a sage or saint. So take advantage of the opportunity to realize a glorious life. Do not eat meat on the table, but chew the bones under it. Leave the awarded honor, but go through hardship. Being a crouching tiger with talent, but without carrying a load or playing a role, one will be a pile of broken bones to their death. Butterflies are pretty sights as they fly freely, but a buried gemstone is no better than the soil. People cannot stay pretty for 1,000 days and flowers cannot remain beautiful for 100. Although fine cellared wines exude beautiful fragrances, they are of no use until they are consumed. Drink as we have wine today and never plan for the following 1,000 years. Tsunamis and earthquakes might happen at any time, so who knows how long we will enjoy our lives. Value what you have. Anything that is easy to gain is actually a gift from the greatest creator. If there is a faucet in the house, why dig a well miles away? Treasure what is coming to you without rejection, but never waste your life daydreaming. If there are many hardships and troubles in that which you are engaged in, you must have misunderstood life. God punishes infatuated people, and hell serves for flaunting people. So why not lead the easy life? Great events are determined by Tao, not by people who do not even understand themselves. The best life can be led by acting along Tao. Wasting a God-given opportunity is acting against Tao. Gangsters should be ruled by demons, but sages should be led by saints. Whether evil or a sage depends on Tao. Speak words to people, talk ghostly when you meet ghosts, keep silent when you meet monsters, chirp and tweet with birds, howl with wolves, describe your aspirations when meet your soulmate, eat when you hunger, void when you must, but never complain to others if you made yourself starve or withheld waste. Buddha guides people with predestination and soulmates can be found in Life Genuine. It is sad to have layers between hearts. Melons are just melons while apricots must be apricots. Everything depends on the telepathy. If melons want to be apricots or apricots want to be melons, the program will be out of order and the goals cannot be realized. Taking the principle of the least resistance, life will be smooth. 麻将混沌与中华文化 Mahjong, holography, and Chinese culture Shuifeng. The root of Chinese culture is holography, or rather, the major vein of Chinese culture is holographic culture rather than Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism. Holographic culture completely conforms to the Tao of the greatest creator. However, to be chaotic also means disorder, thus it is difficult to accurately express the meaning of the way of the greatest creator. So I regard the root of Chinese culture as the holographic culture. Many Chinese intellectuals have written articles calling for the renaissance of Chinese culture. After reading their articles, I feel bewildered and ask them in writing, which part of the Chinese culture do you want to revitalize? Not one of them can give me a definite answer or explanation. This shows that those who want to revitalize Chinese culture only have a good wish, but do not really understand what Chinese culture is. Chinese culture is actually holographic culture, and the renaissance of Chinese culture means the renaissance of holographic culture. The cultural primogenitor of the Chinese nation is Fuxi, whose main contribution to culture is Hechaluo Book and the 8 Diagrams. Taiji, the 8 Diagrams, Book of Changes, Liujia, Jiuxing, and Feng Shui in traditional Chinese culture all are derived from him. Hechaluo Book is also the origin of the theory of main and collateral channels and acupuncture point in traditional Chinese medicine, and the origin of Book of Changes, Feng Shui, Yin and Yang, and the 5 elements, the 8 characters about one's birth, Zihui Dishu, the selection of auspicious dates, divination, and necromancy. What Hechaluo Book expresses is a holographic phenomenon, Fuxishi's telepathy between man and heaven, and the scene of the universe resulting from the unity between man and heaven. The connotation of holographic phenomenon is the hologram of the universe. It's so expansive that nothing is excluded, and it can also be so small that nothing can be included. Every phenomenon and everything has a hologram telepathy with the universe. There is nothing independent of a thing, and no phenomenon independent of a phenomenon. To put it more vividly, the fluttering of wings by a butterfly in Alaska of America can trigger a storm in the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa. A coughing by an Eskimo in the Arctic region may induce the fall of an Australian from a building. When interpreting the thinking of mankind, I discover that the most profound thinking is holographic thinking, which is followed in order by non-form thinking, Taiji thinking, visualized thinking, elusive thinking, and the like. The Confucian thinking is the material thinking, the lowest level of thinking. Taoist thinking is Taiji thinking. Buddhist thinking is non-form thinking. The Western thinking based upon science and technology is image thinking and associative thinking. The currently prevailing thinking of the new era, for example, Seth's thinking, conversation with God, the law of one, the disappearance of the universe, A Course in Miracles, and so on, belongs to elusive thinking. The ultimate road that man will take is holographic thinking, or rather, mankind will inherit, carry on, and promote the holographic culture. We can get to know and understand the holographic culture from the 4 phenomena revelation, the 8 diagrams, Huzi, and Mahjong. Revelation means the observation of the astrological movement in the sky, the search of the law of the earth, and the study of animals and plants, the close examination of what is near and the speculation of what is far away. In one word, We can have a direct dialogue with the greatest creator. The revelation that I have written may serve as an introduction for others to come up with something more valuable. The 8 diagrams means that Wuji gives birth to Taiji, Taiji gives birth to Yin and Yang give birth to 4 signs. 4 signs give birth to 8 Gua. 8 Gua gives birth to 64 Yao images. 64 E images give birth to every phenomenon in the universe. Once the changes of 64 E images are understood, it will be easy to understand the dialectical relations between changeable and unchangeable and understand the holographic principles. Huzi was the teacher of Lizi. Huzi could skillfully apply the holographic principles. By studying him, we can understand what holographic phenomenon means. Mahjong is a game popular among Chinese people. Do not disregard Mahjong, because it is really what holographic principle is about. A regular set of Mahjong has 136 pieces, consisting of 4 east, 4 south, 4 west, 4 north, 4 center, 4 fa, 4 white, 36 tiao, 36 bing, and 36 yuan. These pieces combine to form the astronomical numbers. Therefore, we can say that even if a person plays Mahjong every day all his life, he may never encounter a combination that is identical to any other combination or array. You feel as if lost in a maze. You may know things as they are, but do not know why they are so. It seems that everything is a matter of accident. There is no order to anything. Every time you play Mahjong, you hope for chance and luck, and are not sure whether you will win or lose. However, to be holographic is to be orderly. There are rules and laws to what is holographic. The rules and laws are meticulous and allow of no loopholes. What seems to be accidental and random is actually orderly and inevitable. People who play Mahjong all attach great importance to luck. If they win, they say they have good hand qi, luck. And if they lose, they say they hand qi is not good. What is hand qi? Everyone can have a try. If you do not have adequate sleep, if you are not in a good condition, or if you have had sex within the 24 hours, you will not have good hand qi. And the possibility for you to lose will be much higher than the possibility for you to win, unless other 3 people are in an even worse situation. Meanwhile, the direction you are facing and the 5 elements of all the players all have influence on whether you will win or lose. Therefore, if you want to win at Mahjong, you must maintain your vigor and good health and refrain from sex during the short period. If so, you are likely to enjoy good hand qi. Now the problem is, the combinations of astronomical numbers, which seem like a series of random occurrences, are actually closely in line with the hand qi of Mahjong players. If you do not have a good hand qi, you will lose the game no matter how well you can play it. This is where the holographic principles are working. Now let's take a look at these phenomena in the society. Many rich people and people who are good at making money actually have not received much education and do not work very hard, but they are very rich and can make much money. Many people in the officialdom do not have very high intelligence and are not so kind-hearted, but they have many opportunities and are promoted smoothly. On the other hand, many well-educated, intelligent, kind-hearted, and hardworking people are poor and cannot in any way have any opportunity for a promotion. And the secret is the holographic principle. One may fall victim to his own cleverness by outsmarting himself. Why? This is because of holographic principle. Mr. Zhang Baosheng, who is most accomplished in special skills in China, has not received very high education, but his thinking is in a holographic state, and this is the secret. The more concepts one stuffs in his head, the less holographic he will be. The more moral principles one stuffs in his head, the less holographic he will be. The more knowledge one has and the more reasons one understands, the less holographic he will be. The more rules one masters, the less holographic he will be. The more one pursues, the less holographic one will be. How can we be more holographic? Lao Tzu told us to return again to the innocence of baby. Jesus Christ asked us to become like a small child. Zhang Sanfeng told us that to obey is to be immortal, to disobey is to be an immortal. The matter is always shifting between obeying and disobeying. Buddha teaches us to stay away from all forms, let our minds abide nowhere, which is the highest Buddhist principle. The way of the greatest creator is the way of holography. What Life Genuine conveys is holographic information and holographic principles, and what Life Genuine is doing is building holographic culture and revitalizing the root culture of China and the most quintessential culture of China. This is infinitely profound and very interesting. 石墨和金刚石结构给我们的启示 A revelation from the structure of graphite and diamond. Xiefeng. Graphite is an allotrope of carbon, a transitional crystal among covalent crystals, metal crystals, and molecular crystals. In crystals, the same layers of carbon atoms form covalent bonds by sp2, trigonal, hybridization. Each carbon atom connects with 3 others, and 6 of them form a regular hexagon ring on the same plane and stretch to form laminated structures. These carbon atoms in the same plane also have p orbits, which overlap with each other to form delocalized electrons that can move freely in crystal lattices and can be motivated. That is, the graphite has metallic luster which can conduct heat and electricity. Due to the large distances between the layers, and with small bonding forces, they have soft and creamy textures, are gray-black, opaque, and solid. They have a density 2.25 G/cm3, a melting 0.3652 degrees Celsius, a boiling 0.4827 degrees Celsius, and a Mohs scale hardness of 1. The chemical properties are stable and corrosion-resistant, and not very reactive with acid, alkali, or other chemicals. When burned in oxygen at 687 degrees Celsius, it will produce carbon dioxide. It can be oxidized by strong oxidizing agents such as concentrated nitric acid or mineral chameleon. It can be used as an anti-scuff agent and as a lubricant. Highly pure graphite can be used as a neutron moderator in nuclear reactors and can be used in the manufacture of crucibles, electrodes, electric brushes, dry cell batteries, graphite fibers, heat exchangers, coolers, electric arc furnaces, arc lamps, pencil lead, and much more. Diamonds are allotropes of carbon atoms which are typical covalent crystals. The carbon atoms form 4 sp3 hybrid orbits which connect to each other with covalent bonds. Each carbon atom is in the center of a regular tetrahedron formed by 4 other carbon atoms associated with it, forming a crystal, and the entire crystal can be regarded as a giant molecule. These crystals belong to cubic systems and are usually in forms with 8 faces. The purest quality ones are colorless, transparent, strong, and lustrous, but impurities will make them appear blue, sky blue, light yellow, red, or black. Their density is 3.15-3.53 G/cm3. Their melting point is 3550 degrees Celsius, and their boiling point is 4827 degrees Celsius. With a Mohs scale hardness of 10, they are the hardest of all materials. They are non-conductive and appear pale blue fluorescent under ultraviolet light. They do not react with most chemical agents and can be burned in oxygen at 777 degrees Celsius to produce carbon dioxide. Transparent carbides are known as diamonds after they have been carved and polished and are luxurious ornaments. There are few diamond minerals in nature. Diamonds can be made artificially, such as with graphite, subjected to high temperatures, high pressures, and catalyzing agents. What revelation can we obtain from the above data? Graphite and diamonds both consist of carbon atoms, which means that the material of both is the same, but the differences of their molecular structural permutations lead to completely different physical properties. The Mohs scale hardness of graphite is 1 while that of diamonds is 10. The extreme differences between the two lead to extremely different uses, and that is to say that for the same material, when its molecular permutations change, its material properties also change. This principle can be used in the management of the production, life, and human resources, and that is by the permutation and combinations of the managers. Perfect permutations and combinations will make teams like diamonds, with powerful and efficient managing ability. Conversely, if the team is like graphite, it will be weak, ineffective, and have poor managing efficiency. Graphite has free, radical electrons, while diamonds do not. This shows us the analogy that if one group consists of people with different faiths and viewpoints who act without coordination by their own free will, then it will lack cohesion, capacity, and have low efficiency and internal friction. Conversely, if the group is like a unified diamond, it will be invincible, capable of destroying any stronghold, and energy efficient. The same materials form different material properties because of their different permutations and combinations. So it is with life. If the life's non-material structure is different, then it can be transformed from one form of life into another, and a human may be transformed into a celestial being or a Buddha. We can regard humans as graphite, while celestial beings and Buddhas as diamonds. If the consciousness of a human is out of order, they will likely devolve towards lower life. If the consciousness of a human is in order, they will likely evolve toward a higher life. I have obtained the secrets of transforming humans into celestial beings and Buddhas, and I am aware of how to do this with self-cultivation and self-refinery. As long as one follows my guidance strictly, they will become a celestial being or a Buddha and reach the high-level space of life. This is assured. 若无报应则无天理. If there is no retribution, there will be no natural law. Xiefeng, January 30th, 2019. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Care. What is natural law? Natural law is the set of operational laws and principles of the universe and is the reward and punishment mechanism of Tao for all lives. What is retribution? Retribution is the set of rewards and punishments given by natural law according to each life's thoughts, words, and deeds. Is there natural law? This depends on whether there is retribution. If there is no retribution, then natural law does not exist. But if there is retribution, then there definitely is natural law. To know whether there is retribution, we have to analyze, sort out, summarize, verify, and judge from the ups and downs of human society, the rise and fall of each nation, and the joys and sorrows of each individual. We can also analyze and summarize the history and actual facts of each family and draw our own conclusions. If you find that there is indeed retribution, then you must follow natural law and not violate it. But if you find there is no retribution, then you can do whatever you want. Natural law is shapeless, formless, shadowless, traceless, invisible, intangible, and inaudible. To know whether it exists, we can only perceive, sense, and feel the changes in nature, in human society, and in everyone's status quo. To know natural law by way of retribution is called verification. We can also deduce whether it exists through logical reasoning. For example, if you killed a snake and had no son but then found that most people who killed snakes had no sons either, you could conclude that those who kill snakes generally have no sons. A connection between killing snakes and not having sons could be reached. If you kill a snake, then you will either have no sons or they would be accidents. If this were a common phenomenon, then it would prove that killing snakes is retributive, but if it were not a common phenomenon, then it would prove that there is no retribution for killing snakes and that retribution does not exist. Another example would be between married couples. As long as the wife's aura exceeds that of her husband's, they will give birth to a daughter, but if the husband's aura surpasses that of his wife's, then they will give birth to a son. The formation of this aura correlates to the degree of love and respect that each person has toward their partner. If the wife's degree of love and respect is low, then her aura will be strong and daughters will be born. But if her degree of love and respect is high, her aura will be low and sons will be born. In the same way, if the husband's respect for his wife is low, his aura is strong, and then they will bear sons. But if his respect is high and his aura is weak, then they will bear daughters. Whether this principle is true or not needs to be verified from a large number of cases. If facts prove that this principle is true, then it proves that retribution exists. Otherwise, retribution does not exist. Due to their lack of experience, young people do not understand retribution, so it requires older people to tell them about it, and that if it exists, then people must be careful not to talk, act, eat, go, or think indiscriminately, otherwise there will be retribution. Once it is proven that natural law exists, then we should follow it because if we do so, we will get its corresponding retribution, but if we do not follow it, then we get the corresponding retribution for not following it. For example, I see a phenomenon in cyberspace that no matter who you are or what you post, you will always be scolded. If you are sincere and have good intentions, then you will be scolded. If you publicize Jesus or Buddha, then you will be scolded. If you promote the goodness of communism, then you will be scolded. If you respect your ancestors, then you will be scolded. If you speak from your heart honestly, then you will be scolded. If you spread truth, goodness, beauty, love, faith, and sincerity, then you will be scolded. No matter what you say, there will always be someone out there who is ready to scold you. Even gods, Buddha, celestials, and saints will be scolded when they appear to preach. This cursing is so harsh that it brings bitter winds and miserable rains and makes dust and stones fly. It is so harsh that even good people bow their heads, thinkers dare not write articles, and those who want to do good deeds dare not do them. In addition, some people demolish other people's houses with plausibility, drive others out of their homes, add drugs to food, inject fake vaccines into children, cheat people out of money, dump garbage into rivers, and so forth. They are very aggressive. But you do not need to worry because if the existence of natural law is proven, then retribution will surely come. Natural law cannot be controlled by anyone. No matter who they are subject to its rewards and punishments. Otherwise, millions of the Ming Dynasty imperial family would not have been killed. All 10 clans of Feng Xiaoru's family would not have been killed because of implication. Emperor Chongzhen would not have hanged himself. Ceausescu would not have been shot, and Saddam Hussein would not have been hanged. Some retributions appear immediately, some take years, decades, or even longer to manifest themselves. Therefore, when we study and explore whether retribution exists, we should not just analyze, sort out, summarize, and judge by only one event at one time by one person. We need to explore across time and space. If the retribution mechanism is real, then it can be foreseen that the Chinese nation will face a catastrophe. But if there is no catastrophe, then natural law does not exist and people can do whatever they want. 从两张图片思考心灵的温度. Thinking about the temperature of the soul from 2 pictures. Xiefeng, May 22, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Musa. Please look at the following 2 pictures first. They are 2 pictures of the same place. This is the place where I live and work. From the picture we can see that one is a winter scene and the other is an early summer scene. From this we can see clearly that because of the cold weather and low temperature in winter, everything is bleak and the earth is silent. But when the climate is warm, everything will be thriving. The earth will present a scene of vitality. The enlightenment of this phenomenon is that when the temperature of one's spiritual sky is appropriate, one's soul will be full of vitality and creativity, but when the temperature of one's spiritual sky is very low, one's soul will be dead and lack of vitality or creativity. So, what is the temperature of the soul? The spiritual state that measures the strength of a person's mental state, thinking ability, and creative ability is called the temperature of the soul. People with high temperature of soul are flexible, full of enthusiasm, passion, and vitality, and full of creativity, just like the summer of nature, while people with low temperature of soul are sluggish, rigid in thinking and lack of creative ability, just like the winter of nature. The temperature of the soul is composed of and determined by affection, love, and sex. If a person has rich affection, is full of love, and his sex is not suppressed, the temperature of his soul is high. If a person is effectively discouraged, desperate, dejected, and self-abandoned, lack of gratitude, full of resentment to the surroundings, and his nature is suppressed and cannot be released, then the temperature of his soul is low. From the above 2 pictures, we need to warn ourselves that if the temperature of our souls is too low, our lives will fall into poverty and hopelessness. Our lives will be icy without energy and vitality. Therefore, we need to raise the temperature of our souls consciously and let our lives to be colorful and full of energy and infinite hope, just like the changing and colorful sky and earth in the summer. In addition to the temperature of our own inner soul, we also need the temperature of the outside soul. This requires us to consciously participate and devote ourselves to those people who are full of enthusiasm and passion, full of love, full of happiness, joy, freedom, and blessedness, where it can let our lives bloom brilliant shines. 名牌给我的启示. Enlightenment from famous brands. Xiefeng, May 27, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kair. At the end of last fall, I bought a Zhang Shaoquan kitchen knife from a Chinese store in Vancouver. I cherished my new knife but failed to use it for a long time until I lost my old kitchen knife last month and finally began using it. It was easier and handier to use, and the good experience that it provided was like a cow eating lotus or removing hair from yak butter. A quality product is easy to use and works really well. The old kitchen knife was eventually found, but I never used it again until yesterday when I placed the Zhang Shaoquan in the sink after I had cut some meat and picked up the old kitchen knife unconsciously when I needed to cut some vegetables. The moment I held it in my hand, I found it to be quite unpleasant, And it was at that moment that I realized the value of the famous brand. 10 years ago, Shintao Celestial gave me a Philips razor which is still good after I had used it for 10 years. Then, I accidentally lost a small holder while cleaning my hair half a year ago, so I had to buy a new razor at 100 Mile House. I bought one of the best ones in that store, but it did not work well and failed after only a month. I eventually found the small holder for my Philips, but although I wanted to use the new one, it did not work well, so I returned to using the Philips. The advantage of the Philips is that after charging it for slightly more than 10 minutes, it can be used for about 20 days. After 10 years, the battery is still intact. In addition, it feels comfortable in my hand, shaves cleanly, never pinches me or pulls any hairs out painfully, is fairly silent, and the original blade is still sharp. From these two examples, I have concluded that whether it is appliances, clothes, or other utensils, it is best to use quality brands if one can afford them. They might be more expensive, but in terms of long-term benefits, they are more cost-effective. Thus, I realized that people can also be divided into various grades. If you can get acquainted with, interact with, and cherish quality brand characters in your life, then your blessings will be great. Brand characters are like Zhang Shaoquan kitchen knives and Philips razors. They always make people feel comfortable and bring them wisdom, joy, safety, and tranquility, but never disturb them or make them feel uncomfortable. The benefits of getting along with brand characters are many. The greatest wealth in life is being able to meet and cherish one or several of them. I can be considered a blessed person because when I counted the treasures in my spiritual warehouse, I found several brand characters worth mentioning. Two male secular friends are Shui Binyi and Lu Jinkai. Two male Chanyuan Celestials are Tongtian Celestial and Qinxi Celestial, and three female brand Celestials are Huiying Celestial, Jingying Celestial, and Xiangrui Celestial. Their common features are that they all have rich personalities and first-class quality. They are picturesque like mountains and rivers or poems and paintings, high in taste and state, treat me sincerely and without deception, have never made me feel uncomfortable in the slightest degree, and have helped me a lot. We should cherish brand objects while using them and treat them with awe because they are expensive, and do the same with brand people. When facing the brand people whom we are lucky enough to have in our lives, we can only venerate and admire them in our hearts without the tiniest secular affection or lust. It is best to enjoy them as quietly as you would appreciate peerless landscape paintings. Never take them down and hang them up repeatedly. When several government websites described Life-Chanuan as a cult several years ago, I, as its godfather, immediately broke off my relations with Shui Binyi and Lu Jinkai because I did not want to negatively impact the futures of my best friends. Sacrificing oneself and protecting brand friends is the best way to cherish and respect them. Brand objects have exquisite structures, high quality, and long service lives, making them easy to use. Brand characters have rich personalities and are transcendent, lofty, exquisite, sincere, selfless, and desireless beyond words. They are inexhaustible spiritual sources from which one can benefit for a lifetime, so they should only be admired without the slightest profane thoughts. Of course, there are still many brand characters who are worth cherishing in my life, most of whom are Chanyuan Celestials. I hope that my existence will be valuable and useful to my dear friends, and I pray that one day my relationships with Chanyuan Celestials will no longer be as ones between a tour guide and tourists, but rather those of close friends. It is not easy to meet brand characters. Not only does it require a gift from the greatest creator, but also the matching of one's own quality. It is even more difficult to become one. It takes a lifetime of self-cultivation and self-refinement to hope to accomplish that. A person who never meets a brand character throughout their life would not know that there are mountains beyond mountains, how high the sky is, or how lush the land can be. They would always use old kitchen knives without knowing that Zhanzioquans exist, but always think that all kitchen knives are the same. This is both pitiful and pathetic, just like a woman who has never experienced an extreme orgasm never knows what it is really like to be a woman. I hope that I can become like a Zhang Shaoquan kitchen knife or Philips razor one day. 日常生活中能获得天启 Revelations from Daily Life. Xiefeng, December 1st, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Care. Everything and all phenomena are the words of the greatest creator, and changing phenomena are the greatest creator speaking them. This is Zen, the book without words. Reading the book without words is talking to the greatest creator, and you can listen to the greatest creator's words in daily life without pursuing a lofty posture. I placed a bag of flour inside my refrigerator, but not in the freezer section. When I reopened it a year later, I found that it had formed into lumps, which made it inedible. Revelation: flour should be placed in a dry and ventilated place because it will rot and deteriorate in a damp place. People should change their homes frequently, and they should always ventilate their thoughts. Otherwise, over time, they will become stubborn. I kept some eggplants in my refrigerator, the temperature in which was kept between 0 degrees C and 4 degrees Celsius. Within a few days, they had turned black, were frozen, and tasted stale. Later, I left other ones at room temperature, and within a few days, they too had rotted. Revelation: some vegetables cannot be kept too cold or too hot. Some people cannot be loved or hated. If you do not take a bath or change your clothes for a month, lice will appear. Revelation: as long as the conditions are right, species will find them. Viruses appear in the same way. So if humans do not adopt new ideas and new ways of living often, viruses will arrive. The coronavirus is telling people that they must think and live differently. Revelation: people who do not learn to perceive and accept new ideas and new lives often will invite parasitic thoughts to grow in their minds. When boiling mung beans, you will always encounter iron beans. Their shapes and colors are exactly the same as those of mung beans, but no matter how you cook them, they do not soften. In fact, the more you cook them, the harder they become. Revelation: within groups of people, there will always be some special ones such as saints and rogue thieves who are born thusly and will not change. It is very cold here in the winter, so our window glasses are double layered and there are empty, insulating layers between them. In this way, the cold is blocked out. Revelation: worries are cold. With 2 layers of selflessness, we can keep our worries out. I bought a water bamboo shoot 2 years ago and placed it in a glass vase and changed the water from time to time, but other than that, I never gave it any nutrient fertilizer. I would sometimes forget to change the water, and sometimes there was only a little bit of water left in the vase, but the bamboo has still been growing well. Revelation: in crowds, some people are like water bamboos. You do not need to establish special relationships with them, and you do not need to give them special care, but they will be happy as long as you smile at them or say hello to them occasionally. They need very little encouragement in order to maintain intimate relationships with you. They are the most content and sincere water bamboo-like people among us. My neighbor moved out of his old house and wanted to store a bunch of his stuff in my place for a while and stay with me for a few days. I said sure, I would love to have him. I told him that he could live with me until he found his new home, that he could stay with me for the whole winter, and that I wanted nothing in return. I even told him that he could treat my home as his own. Was I being extraordinarily generous? In fact, it was not that I was being generous, but because he had been helping me for the past several years. Every winter, this neighbor had driven his snowplow to shovel snow for me, and he never charged me anything, so my door was open to him. Revelation: if you want others to open their doors to you, and if you want to be welcomed warmly, then you need to accumulate merits in advance. If you have merits, then the door will open to you. But if there are none, then the door will be closed. The same is true for heaven. If you have merits there, then you will be welcome. But if you do not, then you will not be. Last year, I bought 2 red leaf trees from a nursery in Vancouver and grew them in flower pots. They grew very well in the summer. One day, one of them blew over in the wind, but I had not noticed it until a few hours later, so I picked it up and replanted the baby tree, but sadly it died soon after. A few days ago, I accidentally overturned some crab cactus pots on a table and poured out the soil, so I hurriedly replanted it. As a result, its growth was unaffected, and it even came into full bloom a few days later. Revelation: people are like plants. Sometimes, once you offend some, it is difficult to restore a good relationship with them, while if you offend others, it will not affect your good relationship with them at all. 天气越优秀者越美满. Revelation: the more excellent, the happier. Xiefeng. December 4th, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Care. This year, One of my friends sent me 12 large peaches from Vancouver. The color of them were gorgeous. They tasted tender, crisp, and sweet. They were big and fragrant, and except for some that I had eaten as a child, I had not enjoyed such big and fragrant ones in many decades. Later, I bought several kinds of peaches from a local supermarket, but in terms of size, color, and sweetness, they could not compare with those big peaches from my friend. To satisfy my guests, I always serve a plate of fruit for breakfast. Grapes are a standing item, so I serve them every day of the year. In addition to ones grown locally in Canada, there are also grapes imported from the United States and Mexico. Since I buy and eat grapes often, I discovered their secret. The bigger the grape, the sweeter and more fragrant, the more delicious, fewer seeds, and less residue they have, and of course, the more expensive they will be. From the above revelations of peaches and grapes, I have found that for all things, including lives, the more excellent that they are in some ways, the better they will be in many ways. This revelation even applies to people. The more excellent that people are, the easier it becomes to deal with them. The less trouble they bring to others, the more reasonable they are, the more flexible and accommodating they are in dealing with affairs, the more they give and dedicate, the less they ask for, the more humble, positive, and optimistic they are, and the better the quality of their lives are. The more excellent that people are, the better one feels about getting along with them. On the other hand, the better that people can get along with them, the more excellent they are. A further enlightenment is that only the excellent can create beautiful environments and lives. Perfection creates perfection, but flaws create defects. From this revelation, we can understand that if a region or country is poor and backward, then too few outstanding people must reside within it. But if it is prosperous and its people live and work in peace, then many outstanding people must live within it. By the way, if someone always brings hope, beauty, happiness, and joy to people, and excites and makes them ecstatic, then this person must be excellent and is a big fairy peach or a big, sweet, fragrant, and colorful grape. If on the contrary, a person always brings worries, anxiety, troubles, confusion, pessimism, and unpleasantness, then they are, you guessed it, 老虎的背上不会长翅膀. Tigers will not grow wings on their backs. Xiefeng, March 6, 2021. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Care. Suppose that tigers had wings on their backs and they could give birth to more than 10 cubs at a time like pigs and dogs. What would result? I am afraid that many other animals would have little chance to survive, and it would be questionable whether even humans could survive or not. This revelation tells us that life cannot be perfect and that people's wishes cannot be fully satisfied. If you want to be rich, powerful, famous, have a happy family, and go to heaven, there is no such possibility. You can either be a bird with wings or a fierce tiger, but no desire to be both a bird and a tiger can be satisfied. When we study the scientists who have won Nobel Prizes around the world, we find that they had been trying assiduously to explore the mysteries of the material universe in obscurity. One day, one of them succeeded in discovering one of the mysteries that was sought, but before that success was their perseverance of long and hard work and a devotion to it. Just imagine, if a person wanted to be an entrepreneur, a government official, and a star, could they also become a Nobel Prize winner? Of course not. If you covet too much, then in the end, you will accomplish nothing. Too much greed will not only cause successive worries, but also lead to schizophrenia and, of course, failure. If a man wants to get a beautiful, sexy, charming, gentle, considerate, artful, loyal woman who can entertain guests and cook well, with a successful career and who can make a lot of money and always accompany her husband to serve him tea and coffee, could he find her? No way. She does not exist. That would be like looking for a tiger with wings on its back. For those who are determined to trek to the peak of life and finally reach heaven, when you decide to start, you must say goodbye to your desires for money, power, fame, profit, status, and carnal bliss. You must no longer want to own anything. You must reach the state of zero, possess nothing, and be selfless. In your process of trekking and climbing, you cannot look back, nor look around to compare, but you must remain focused on your way forward. In this process, what you should overcome are not the difficulties and obstacles on your way forward, but rather your inner hesitation, anxiety, pain, fear, lack of confidence, your inner purgatory, and your mental and spiritual torture. Do not expect people around you to understand and support you. That would be impossible. Consider yourself fortunate if they do not try to pull you back. You will taste despair to the point of considering suicide, and at the same time, you will not have the time or energy to explain anything, let alone to get angry, complain, or consider revenge. These kinds of mental and spiritual suffering will be the prices that you will have to pay to go to heaven. Never have regrets in life. They will ruin your good memories of the past and your spiritual power to go toward the beautiful time and space. Over the past years, no matter how much blood, sweat, tears, and hardships we have paid, and no matter how much grievance and helplessness we have experienced, it has become history, and history is a burden. With this heavy burden, it is impossible to move forward lightly and leisurely, to walk a long way, and to reach the most ideal destination. For the past, no regrets; to the future, firm faith. This way, there will be hope to climb to the peak of life and life. 越纯越稳定. The purer the more stable. Xiefeng. January 26, 2019. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Musa. Let's first look at a natural phenomenon. According to a report by the British Daily Mail, on January 22, 2019, in the attic of a resident named Roderick Cooper in Alaska, there are 2 bottles of water in the freezing weather of -22 degrees Celsius, which are still in liquid state, video shows. It is scientifically explained that this is the phenomenon of supercooling, which means that when a liquid is very pure without impurities, the freezing speed will become very slow, and the liquid will continue to remain in the liquid state, without ice crystals, and will not freeze into solid, even it is 22 degrees Celsius below zero or colder. Let's look at another phenomenon. What do we see when babies and children are with wolf, insect, tiger, leopard, and other wild and domestic animals? What we see is that wild animals do not harm babies and children. No matter how wild dogs are, when they are with babies and children, they become docile, even affectionate, when they are with babies and children. They not only do not harm babies and children, but also take care of them. Dogs are like this. Horses, cattle, sheep are like this. Even wild wolves are like this. According to the legend of the city of Rome, when the 15th king of Numitor was reigning, his brother Amulius usurped the throne. For fear of revenge from his brother's descendants, Amulius killed his nephew and forced his niece Silvia to be a priestess who was not allowed to marry. In this way, his brother would have no offspring, and Amulius thought that there would be no crisis in his regime. But his niece Silvia secretly fell in love with the god of war Mars and quietly gave birth to twins. When Amulius learned the news, he ordered the execution of his niece and asked the slave to throw the twins into the Tiber. The river washed the twins to the shore, and their cries led to a female wolf who was drinking water by the river. Instead of harming the twins, she lovingly licked them dry and brought them back to her cave and feed them with her own milk. In 1920, in a small town called Midnapal in the northeast of Kolkata, India, people found 2 human-like monsters walking on all fours trailing behind 3 big wolves. The 2 human-like monsters turned out to be 2 naked girls. It was later confirmed that the 2 girls were raised by wolves since childhood. By the 1950s, it has been discovered scientifically that 30 children were raised by beasts, 5 by bears, 1 by leopards, 14 by wolves, as well as by monkeys and sheep. Let's look at another phenomenon. There are many kinds of gemstones in nature. No matter what kind of gemstones, their value and price are related to their purity. The higher the purity, the higher the value and the price. This also applies to people. The purer and more beautiful they are, the more likable they are. The more complex they are, the more they will be hated by others. To sum up, we can come to the conclusion that the purer a thing is, the less susceptible it is to external factors, just like the rare gas helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, and radon in the periodic table chemical elements. Similarly, the purer a thing is, the higher its stability is. It can also be concluded that the higher the purity of things, the easier for it to get the love of the environment, that is the care and cherishment of the environment. Hence, we can understand why Jesus Christ said that if we want to enter the kingdom of the greatest creator, we must become a child. And we can also understand why Lao Tzu taught us that we must return to the state of infancy if we want to unite with the Tao. Because only by returning to the state of infancy, becoming a child, can you be qualified to enter the kingdom of heaven. Let's extend this principle. If you want to enter heaven, the key is to become pure. Only pure things can show their nature. Nature is Buddha. Nature is celestial. Showing nature is equivalent to becoming celestial and Buddha. Celestial and Buddha will definitely enter heaven. Babies and children are very pure, and what they expose are completely nature. So even a ferocious wolf will not hurt them but will love them. Therefore, whether one can enter heaven or not has nothing to do with learning, knowledge, and wisdom. How many classic books you have learned. It has nothing to do with religion, how many good deeds you have done, how much truth you have understood and spread. It has nothing to do with kowtowing, burning incense, or making pilgrimage. The key is whether a life is pure. In this way, the content of self-cultivation and self-refinement is very simple. What we need to do is to let ourselves become pure, return to the state of infancy. So, we know that the more complicated people are, the farther away they are from heaven. The purer, the more stable. Is it a universal law? Let's analyze it. Most people will have friends. At the beginning, the friendship is very pure, so they can maintain a friendly relationship. But gradually, the friendly relationship cannot be maintained. Why? The reason is that the friendship is becoming more and more impure. If interests are added to friendship, the friendship will become complicated and impure, so it can no longer be maintained. Many people set up companies and business. At the beginning, the company developed smoothly, but as time passed, the company began to decline and close. What is the reason? The reason is that the company has become impure. Some companies began to marry politics. Some companies began to get involved in the real estate business. Some companies began to get involved in the stock market. Some industrial companies became interested in the cultural field. And some companies that only provided food began to engage in business of restaurants, breeding, and planting. Although they are consistent with the content of providing food, their scope of business is different after all, so they will eventually decline. Let's look at the social fields. Romania, Yugoslavia, the Soviet Union, Venezuela, Vietnam, and China all are socialism. The result is they all have almost collapsed. China's socialism is also on the verge of collapse. The reason is that none of them is pure. Socialism is socialism. If you mix it with the market, family and party interest and corruption, it will surely collapse. Pro-socialism is definitely superior to capitalism, but if you make the socialism rather impure, how can it be better than capitalism? Collapse is inevitable because it violates the rule of the purer, the more stable. Flies always find the cracked eggs. Why? Because if there is no crack on the egg, it can keep relatively pure, so flies won't bite it. Once there is crack on the egg cannot keep pure. Flies will certainly come to bite. In the process of founding Life Genuine, I found out that people with more complex thoughts are more likely to be disturbed by external factors and gradually leave, while those with simpler thoughts are more likely to remain. This fact also proves the rule that the purer, the more stable. Thus, we can get another conclusion. For a person, the more knowledgeable, the more complex the thinking, the greater the ability, the more mindful and smarter, the more experienced, the more deeply involved in society, the more flexible, the more he is unreliable, because he or she violates the rule of the purer, the more stable. He might vow to you today and part ways with you tomorrow. Thus we can get one more conclusion that the more complex one is, the most silly and stupid the person is in the world. 小便渐渐发，大便瞬间生，天启篇之三. The small changes gradually occur, while the big changes happen in an instant. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Jiejing. The setting sun cast a magnificent crimson hue over the plateau. Amidst the rolling yellow dust, shepherds herded their flocks back home, and wisps of cooking smoke rose from the rooftops in the village. The sound of human voices, barking dogs, and bleating sheep created a picturesque scene of early spring pastoral return. Suddenly, the earth trembled. Like a giant bomb exploding, a dense yellow column of smoke billowed up from the tranquil summit of Mount Sale. The livestock scattered in panic, while people, unable to escape in time, struggled to comprehend the disaster unfolding before them. The towering Mount Sail abruptly shrank in size. Then, the ground beneath their feet began to shift, causing the unsteady individuals to stumble and fall. In an instant, walls collapsed, houses crumbled, and village after village was reduced to rubble. Halfway up the mountainside, a rolling wave of mud suddenly surged forth, roaring as it rushed down towards the valley. People screamed and cried out, desperately trying to escape. However, in the rapid downhill slide, traveling at nearly 20 meters per second, they couldn't outrun the pursuit of the Grim Reaper. Over 400 head of livestock and 237 men, women, and children from 3 villages were tragically buried alive. The massive landslide on Mount Sail lasted only a few short minutes, and as the dust settled, the desolate wilderness returned to its dreadfully serene state. This is not a myth or a futuristic science fiction story. It is a factual account of the catastrophic landslide on Mount Sail in Dongxiang Autonomous County, Gansu Province, as described by Mr. Zheng Yi in his urgent report on China's ecological collapse. Was it a natural disaster or a man-made calamity? My home is not far from Mount Sail, so the news of the devastating landslide quickly reached my temporary hometown. To my knowledge, the general consensus among people was that it was a natural disaster. But was it truly a natural disaster? There is a profoundly heartbreaking true story that may help answer this question. My hometown was once a picturesque place, but later, the government decided to construct the Lujiaxia Reservoir. This massive machinery of the state forcibly relocated us to a place full of gullies and ravines, where we had to rebuild our homes. At that time, several villagers from our village were irrigating a field. My distant uncle, while irrigating, had his young son playing nearby. Within just 2 hours of irrigation, suddenly, the ground beneath where the little boy was standing gave way. By the time my uncle realized it, his son had vanished without a trace. He helplessly watched as a young life was mercilessly swallowed by the earth. My uncle and aunt cried for 3 days and 3 nights. Why did the sky, Mount Sail, collapse? Why did the ground sink? The sinking of the ground was due to irrigation. So, why did Mount Sail collapse? Is it because the water accumulated by the Lujiaxia Reservoir seeped into Mount Sail? Furthermore, the Mount Sail region has traditionally relied on nature's bounty for sustenance. Since the agricultural reforms and the remarkable transformation of barren mountains into fertile fields depicted in The Great Achievement of Dazai and the film Red Flag Canal, people have exhibited heroic determination by constructing irrigation channels on the mountainside. The Mount Sail region has also built terraced fields, redirecting water from the plains to the plateau. Perhaps the fragile Mount Sail couldn't withstand the relentless human intervention, surrendering and bowing down to the heroic individuals who fought against both heaven and earth. Otherwise, why would such a tall mountain collapse? The collapse and landslide of Mount Sail were monumental changes, and significant transformations occur in an instant. This is what we call a big change that happens in an instant. The Tangshan earthquake in 1976, the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center in the United States, the atomic bomb explosion in Hiroshima, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant disaster in the former Soviet Union, train derailments, plane crashes, car accidents, cerebral hemorrhages, heart attacks, and so on. These major changes all erupt suddenly when people least expect them. In my article, Perplexities and Insights of Life, I wrote, "Is worrying about the future of humanity groundless? Do you believe that the Titanic wouldn't have hit an iceberg? The sun and the moon are always in the river, flowing towards the vast ocean. But can they not suddenly turn into a sea of fire? Noah was mocked for building an ark on top of a mountain. People cheered when Apollo landed on the moon. There's a reason behind every event. Don't laugh without justification. Wise people are anxiously working day and night." In my article, Life is a Journey, I wrote, "Life is a journey, and at its end, there awaits a celestial gate." When Noah's Ark wasn't yet sealed, the world outside was still in a frenzy. But once the Ark's doors were closed, countless beings vanished without a trace. As the massive Titanic sailed through the ocean, the people on board were filled with joy. But when the colossal iceberg quietly approached, The clutches of death took hold of their lives. Whether you believe it or not, big changes happen in an instant. Why do big changes happen in an instant? It's because of the gradual occurrence of small changes. Who has witnessed the growth process of plants? Can you see it by staring? As people age day by day, who can see the specific changes? The sun rises and sets. Can you see it clearly? Someone undergoes a medical examination and is diagnosed with a heart condition. When did it start? Do they know? Small changes gradually occur, leading to big changes happening in an instant. Do you have any further questions? 万物皆有声，天起偏之物. Everything has a sound. 写风. As long as there is movement, vibrations will occur. With vibrations, waves are produced. And with waves, sound is generated. All moving machines make sounds. All living animals produce sounds. All growing plants have sounds. Plants grow with sound, white clouds drifting across the blue sky have sound. Butterflies gracefully dancing among flowers have sound. Mosquitoes buzzing as they suck blood have sound. And the movement of the intestines has sound. Flowing water has sound, and even seemingly still mountains, rocks, and the earth itself have sound. This is because they are not only moving with the Earth's rotation and its revolution around the sun, but also because the molecules within them are in motion. Any frequency of oscillation produces sound. The crashing waves of the sea have sound. Animals running and walking on the earth have sound. Birds flying in the sky have sound. And signals emitted by television stations, radio stations, communication towers, including the signals from our mobile phones, have sound. All light has sound, not only the radiant waves of the sun, but also the faint glow emitted by a lit candle has sound. The flowing underground springs have sound. Blood flowing through our veins has sound, and the upward flow of nutrients within the branches of ancient trees that have lived for 100 years also has sound. The brain has brain waves, the heart has an electrocardiogram, and our mental activities, thinking consciousness have sound. The universe has sound, empty space has sound, positive objects have sound, and negative objects have sound. The greatest creator who created everything in the universe has sound. 难破难解的36道八卦阵，天启篇之一. The 36 8 trigrams formation which are hard to conquer. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Jiejing. It was the summer of 1983 when I was working on the Chilean mountains at an altitude of nearly 4,000 meters. One morning, as I emerged from my tent, I suddenly noticed that the surrounding mountains and fields had donned a green attire overnight. How could the previously desolate earth, which was yellowish just yesterday, transform into a vibrant green overnight? Bending down, I carefully observed and discovered that the grass, which seemed to have been sleeping with its head covered yesterday, appeared to have responded to the call of some divine force. Within a few hours, all of them broke through their constraints and grew more than 5 millimeters upwards. What amazed me even more was that a few days later, the wildflowers bloomed all over the mountains and fields. What astonished me further was that after a few more days, those flowers bore fruit. What left me in awe was that, within a few days, those fruits had already ripened. What startled me the most was that, after a few more days, the lush green mountains and fields reverted back to a desolate yellow. Everything seemed like a dream. Why did the grass on the plains require half a year to go through the entire process of growth and decline, while the grass in the high-altitude region completed the entire cycle of growth and decay in less than a month, perfectly and swiftly? Is this a kind of sorrow or a kind of happiness? Is it a hymn or a lament? I don't know. It must have been around 1986. At that time, Hainan had not yet become a province. After visiting Tianya Haijiao and Sanya, I returned to Haikou. One day, I had a bowl of stir-fried noodles in a small restaurant. As I licked my lips and stepped out of the restaurant, I noticed an old man selling a book under a tree near the entrance. I wondered if it could be a book on Taoist practices. Curiosity prompted me to take a quick glance, and I saw the title, The Art of Becoming Invisible. Taoist Magic, written on the cover of that ancient-looking book in a pale yellow color. I had never heard of such a strange book title before. I flipped through a few pages, filled with terms like heavenly stems, earthly branches, and 5 elements, but I couldn't understand a single sentence. People who love books have a peculiar habit. The more incomprehensible a book is, the more they enjoy collecting it, at least for the sake of appearances. This book was indeed quite expensive, but I still bought it. Back at my workplace, I occasionally flipped through The Art of Becoming Invisible, Taoist Magic, but I couldn't understand it. During a visit to my hometown, my younger brother mentioned an unfortunate incident that occurred in a particular family in our village. He said that the calamity that befell them was said to have occurred on a highly ominous day, coinciding with a joyous event they had organized. He proceeded to inform me of the specific day on which they held the celebration. Puzzled, upon opening The Art of Becoming Invisible, Taoist Magic once again, I discovered that the date my brother had mentioned was indeed recorded in the book, highlighting it as a highly ominous day. It turns out that the knowledge of selecting auspicious dates in Chinese cultural treasures is not superstition after all. The Art of Becoming Invisible, Taoist Magic is fascinating. I delved deep into the world of The Art of Becoming Invisible, Taoist Magic. To my surprise, I realized that it was an extraordinary and unparalleled book. It turns out that the wisdom of Jiangxia, Zhangliang, and Zhuge Liang all stemmed from The Art of Becoming Invisible, Taoist Magic. Ancient Chinese sages were truly remarkable. My grandmother once told me a story. She narrated, in the distant past, there was a peculiar individual who constructed a door using stones in a flat area. There were no walls, and both the front and back of the door opened up to vast fields, completely unobstructed and visible at a glance. People could walk around the door to reach its front or go to its back. However, this eccentric person informed everyone that this door was a celestial gate, and once someone entered, they could never come out again. The crowd burst into laughter, commenting that this peculiar person must be crazy or mentally ill. There was a young man who, in a carefree manner, wanted to prove that the peculiar person was indeed crazy. He walked towards the door, and as soon as he stepped over the threshold, he was stunned by the sight before his eyes. He beheld ancient towering trees, verdant rolling hills, distant peaks shrouded in mist, graceful cranes soaring in the sky, waterfalls cascading down cliffs, and the gentle sound of flowing water. It was a magnificent and enchanting scene, like a splendid paradise. The young man forgot his original intention and continued walking along the forest path. After a few turns in the mountains, he came across a house nestled at the foot of a hill, with wisps of smoke rising from the chimney, emanating an atmosphere of tranquility and elegance. As he approached the door, intending to knock, to his surprise, a beautiful woman dressed in colorful attire, resembling a budding peony, appeared before him. With a graceful nod, she beckoned him and said, "I have been waiting for you for many days. Please come inside quickly." As he stepped into the hall, he saw a middle-aged woman with a kind expression, neat attire, seated gracefully in a high-backed chair. She beckoned him, saying, "Come, come. You have a destined bond with our young lady spanning several lifetimes. Today is an auspicious day, and I shall arrange your marriage." The story continues with a joyous wedding night, filled with candlelight and bliss. They went on to have children, and it is said that they had a total of 5 sons and 5 daughters. The whole family lived happily together, and this young man lived until the age of 99 before peacefully passing away as an immortal. As for the onlookers outside the stone door, they witnessed the young man entering the door, but he suddenly vanished without a trace. They searched frantically, running here and there, but they couldn't find him. In the end, they demanded that the peculiar person remove the magic and return the young man to them. The peculiar person said, "Be patient. Be patient. Wait for another 6 hours, and you will see him." After less than an hour, the eagerly awaiting crowd saw the young man, who was still unconscious. Just as they were about to inquire about what had happened to the peculiar person, they realized that both the peculiar person and the stone door had disappeared without a trace. It was then that the people realized they had encountered an immortal. My grandmother continued to speak to me, saying, "Silly boy, if you contemplate the mysteries of the heavens and earth, profound truths may one day become clear to you. Do you want to become that young man?" I replied, "Grandmother, you're talking about mythology. We are now studying science. and mythological stories are made up by people. How can I become that young man? Grandmother responded with, I don't understand science. Let everything be determined by fate. Later, when I read The Story of the Magic Mirror, the scenes of the White Flower Fairy descending to the mortal world and the children of Luo Binwang and Su Jingya breaking the Yu Water Formation, Fireless Formation, Ba Knife Formation, and Kai Bei Formation, I couldn't help but recall my grandmother's stories and reflect on the process of growth and decay I had personally witnessed in the grass on the Chilean mountains. It was then that I realized the boundless mysteries that exist in the universe. I have just realized that the magic of the art of becoming invisible, Taoist magic, lies in its ability to create and break formations. I have just realized that the greatest creator has laid out 36 8-diagram arrays in the universe. I have just realized that we humans exist within one of the greatest creator's formations. Who can decipher the greatest creator's formation? Who can unravel the secrets like Xie Sun did with the dragon-slaying saber? It all depends on our destiny. 联想思维天启篇之75 Associative thinking. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Jiejing. Being able to grasp a particular phenomenon in the natural world, and then through that phenomenon, draw analogies, make inferences, and establish connections with other related factors is called associative thinking. The most typical example of associative thinking is Newton, Apple, universal gravitation. Newton, observing the common natural phenomenon of an apple falling to the ground, associated it with gravity. From gravity, he made connections to factors such as mass, velocity, and spatial distance, and subsequently derived the three laws of motion. This is an example of associative thinking. The phenomenon of swirling water in a bathtub drain can be associated with the direction of Earth's magnetic field lines. The spiraling ascent of a bean vine can be associated with the direction of celestial bodies' movement. The natural phenomenon of wood floating and iron sinking on the water surface can be associated with buoyancy and the shipbuilding industry. The discontinuity observed in certain events can be associated with quantum mechanics. The concepts of motion, mass, and gravity can be associated with the curvature of space-time. The role of consciousness can be associated with the holographic nature of the universe, and so on. All of these examples fall under the category of associative thinking. A qualified detective can deduce the character traits, motives, and whereabouts of the parties involved from the smallest clues. A qualified forensic expert can infer the physical characteristics, facial expressions, and even the appearance and attire of the perpetrator from the victim's injuries and facial expressions. A qualified traditional Chinese medicine practitioner can identify internal organ disorders based on a patient's complexion. A qualified fortune teller, based on a person's facial features, can make predictions about their past actions, future fortunes, and misfortunes. A qualified feng shui master can assess the quality of a person's living environment based on their handwriting and habitual movements. A qualified politician can anticipate a dynasty's transition and the arrival of a new era based on common psychological and behavioral patterns among people. A qualified economist can predict stock market fluctuations, the future economic development of a company or a nation based on specific events. A qualified sociologist can associate the prevalence of prostitution, drug use, and organized crime with the loss of a nation's belief systems and moral values. Even a fashion designer can envision future clothing trends based on popular colors and the pace of people's footsteps on the streets. Associative thinking possesses qualities of originality, inventiveness, novelty, and uniqueness. It is a divergent thinking process. Many people may appear to have associative thinking, but in reality, they are merely applying the associative knowledge of others or drawing from long-standing experiential summaries. For example, many farmers can relate the changing seasons to spring plowing, summer growth, autumn harvest, and winter storage. However, this is not the result of their own associative thinking but a reflection of their accumulated experiences in their conscious minds. Similarly, many individuals can associate joint pain with changes in weather, which is the effect of knowledge and experience rather than the result of associative thinking. Many businessmen make decisions on what goods to import or export based on regional differences, timing variations, and seasonal variations. Again, this is a result of experience, with few exceptions. When we look at the professions of engineers, technicians, experts, scholars, ordinary detectives, doctors, economists, and others, it may seem like their work relies on associative thinking. However, in reality, they are simply applying the knowledge or experience acquired from education or accumulated through their work. For instance, Newton's association of an apple falling to the ground with the concept of universal gravitation is a result of associative thinking. But if a college student claims to associate an apple falling to the ground with universal gravitation, they are merely stating the knowledge they have learned, recounting Newton's discovery, rather than expressing their own associative thinking unless they have never heard of Newton or were unaware of the concept of gravity. Strictly speaking, associative thinking refers to the type of thinking that leads to new discoveries, inventions, creations, and theories. In this sense, individuals who possess associative thinking are primarily scientists, inventors, forensic experts, traditional Chinese medicine practitioners, fortune tellers, feng shui masters, exceptional politicians, military strategists, and engineers or technicians who can develop new products to some extent. The individuals who primarily drive the slow progression of human civilization are those who possess the ability of associative thinking. Without them, the civilized society we have today would not exist. Materialistic thinking is rigid thinking, while associative thinking is divergent thinking. It breaks free from the rigidity of materialistic thinking and surpasses the imitation and copying of image thinking. It directly extends its tentacles into unknown territories, leading to new discoveries and inventions and finding new pathways. However, associative thinking still falls far short of truly grasping the profound mysteries of the universe. I can see this point from the thinking of great scientists such as Newton, Einstein, Planck, Hawking, and others. I also see it in the efforts of scientists attempting to establish a unified field theory of the universe. For the entire human race, I hope to see a significant emergence of individuals with associative thinking abilities. This is because when it comes to transporting a 6-ton cargo from point A to point B, which is 800 kilometers away, an individual with associative thinking can simply drive a heavy truck and complete the task in a day. On the other hand, if we rely on individuals with material thinking, even if each person can carry 50 kilograms and walk 100 kilometers a day, it will still require 120 people and 8 days to accomplish the task. This approach would be wasteful, laborious, and inefficient. As for individuals with image thinking, they simply cannot achieve this task. From an artistic perspective, image thinking may be greater than material thinking. However, from a practical standpoint, when one is hungry, a steamed bun can provide sustenance, whereas a picture of a bun, no matter how realistic, cannot solve practical problems. For Life Genuine members, I hope that everyone does not limit their thinking to associative thinking because associative thinking is still a lower-level form of thinking. It's like the situation where information needs to be exchanged between the two shores of the Atlantic Ocean. Materialistic thinkers would build ships and send people across, imagery-based thinkers would lay undersea cables, and associative thinkers would use radio waves. However, our approach is 静处无灾殃 闹处有祸患以天启偏之期. Quiet places are free from misfortune, but places of excitement may breed disaster. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Jiejing. My kitchen at home is 20 square meters. Occasionally, I would see a few light red ants here and there. On the floor, by the sink, on the countertop, or hurriedly searching for food on the cupboard. Since their numbers were small, my partner and I never paid them much attention, allowing them to roam freely and do as they pleased. Later on, we noticed that their numbers kept increasing. Sometimes, we would see more than 10 of them scurrying around, so we had no choice but to take appropriate measures to remove them. One day, I suddenly discovered that they were gathering in large groups, marching back and forth through a gap beneath the kitchen cabinets and sink. Curiously, I opened one of the cabinets and to my surprise, there were nearly 1,000 ants crawling inside a box of rock sugar, which a friend had brought from my home country a few days ago. This was unacceptable, so I fetched a can of insecticide called Super Kill EM and sprayed it along their trail, covering their entry and exit points with a substantial amount of the spray. In less than 10 minutes, the ant colony was completely wiped out. After that, I didn't see a single ant for the next 2 weeks. This incident illustrates that nothing should not be allowed to develop excessively, nor should it reside in a place that is not its own territory. Otherwise, there will be a catastrophic outcome. It also highlights the fact that one should not rush into things or join the crowd without careful consideration, as there may be hidden dangers in chaotic situations. Think about the rabbits and cacti that once proliferated uncontrollably in Australia, the kudzu vines that spread extensively in a certain state in the United States, the overpopulation of elephants in Zimbabwe, and the sparrows that covered the mountains in China during the 1950s. All of them encountered disasters as a result. Let's take a look at China's trade with Russia in the 1980s. Initially, it was smooth and unimpeded. Then it prospered and flourished, but eventually it faded away. The main reason behind this was that things got too lively. The Great Leap Forward was very lively. The race to surpass the UK and the US was very lively. The Cultural Revolution was very lively. The nationwide practice of Qigong was very lively. The sit-in demonstrations at Tiananmen Square were very lively. Venturing into business after the market reform was very lively. Engaging in corruption and abuse of power was very lively. Online commenting was very lively. There is a connection between two extremes, and when something reaches its extreme, there will be a backlash. Following trends and seeking excitement inevitably lead to disappointing outcomes. When university students choose their majors without considering the future rise and fall of professions 4 or 5 years later, blindly pursuing popular fields of study, they will face disappointment upon graduation. Similarly, if farmers only see the high value of peaches this year and everyone rushes to plant peach trees, when the planted peach trees bear fruit 3 years later, it will be a period of devaluation for peaches. Observing the prevalent trend in China today where many people exhaustively strive to strike it rich through primitive accumulation, alongside government officials eagerly leveraging their positions to amass wealth, it appears to be considered normal, a case of to gain without working. However, when this fervor reaches its peak, it signals the commencement of tragedy in many people's lives. In chaotic situations, there are hidden dangers, and wise individuals should avoid them. 贵者不清闲，天启篇之六. The noble rarely appear. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Jiejing. There were 3 strange encounters that made me realize the noble do not easily reveal themselves. The first one was in March 1994, in the Kiorokio area of Matabiland North Province in Zimbabwe. It was a quiet day, and I was driving my pickup truck along an abandoned path, venturing deeper into the jungle. As I reached a small hill, I turned off the engine and was about to get out when I suddenly saw a white deer on the hill. It turned its head and looked at me for just a few seconds before swiftly disappearing into the forest. I quickly got out of the car and chased after it, looking left and right, but I couldn't catch a glimpse of it again. I had asked the local villagers if there were any white deer in the area, and they replied, "Never seen one." I also asked many colleagues if they had ever seen a white deer, and they responded, "Nonsense. There are no white deer." The second time was in August 1995, but the specific location is now a fuzzy memory. We were drilling a well by a lush riverbank. It was a cold day when suddenly 3 cranes descended from the sky. Their bodies were gray, with long necks that turned white at the head, topped with red crowns. Their claws were also red. There were 2 larger cranes and 1 smaller crane. They landed about 30 meters away from us. I had seen this type of crane before in 1964 when I was herding sheep near the Yellow River. According to the elders, it is rare to encounter these cranes, and those who do are believed to have good luck and are likely to prosper financially. I have now seen 5 of them but still haven't struck it rich. At that time, there were 2 Zimbabwean people who witnessed these 3 cranes with me. I asked them, "Do you often see this type of crane?" They replied, "This is actually the first time we've seen this kind of crane." The third time was on a day in February 2003. The location was my residence at 46 Pendennis Road, Mount Pleasant, Harare. It was around 6 o'clock in the morning. Having lived in Harare for nearly 8 years, I often observed birds in the early morning. I visited 2 bird parks and had seen dozens of bird species. However, what excited me was that particular morning when I encountered a peculiar bird. It was slightly larger than a sparrow, with a green head, black body, and a red tail. What stood out the most was its tail, which was vividly red and measured approximately 25 centimeters in length. It perched among the treetops for only about 10 seconds before flying away. The white deer, cranes, and exotic bird. What do they signify? They signify that the noble do not easily reveal themselves. This leads me to think of the Emperor of Japan, who seldom appears in public because of their nobility. Diamonds are hard to find because they are precious. Reclusive hermits in the mountains do not easily emerge because of their nobility. Some households keep their extraordinary treasures hidden from the market because of their value. This leads me to the realization that anything that is esteemed, rare, and of infinite value is not easily found. This leads me to ponder, how many rare and precious things are yet undiscovered in this universe, in this world? How many wise and enlightened sages and immortals are hidden, like dragons and tigers lying in wait? Truly, the mysteries are boundless. Wise ministers choose their lord, while virtuous birds select their tree for perching. Tigers do not descend upon plains, and horses do not venture deep into mountains. The phoenix does not land in a place devoid of treasures, and immortals do not associate with ordinary people. Blinded by a single leaf, one cannot see Mount Tai, and without destiny, it is difficult for a person to encounter extraordinary experiences. Indeed, the noble do not easily reveal themselves, and those who readily display themselves are not truly noble. 我奶奶到底是谁?我又是谁?天启篇之二. Who is my grandmother after all? And who am I? Xiefeng. Translation edited by Jiejing. If one contemplates the heavens and earth incessantly, profound principles will eventually become clear. Let's leave it to fate. These are two phrases that my grandmother often said when telling fairy tales. Contemplate the heavens and earth? How does one contemplate? Profound principles? What are these profound principles? Fate? What does fate mean? This ignorant and foolish grandson, why didn't I ask my grandmother about these questions in the first place? It wasn't until more than 20 years after her departure that I remembered to inquire about these matters. I have asked the sun, moon, stars, inquired about the mountains and rivers, questioned the gods, Buddhas, and immortals, and even inquired about the winds, clouds, rain, and snow. The answer I received was mystery. I have no choice but to trace back to my grandmother and suddenly realize that this grandmother of mine is extraordinary. Grandma was illiterate, yet she knew countless fairy tales and could speak eloquently, presenting one set of principles after another. This left my highly educated uncle and other learned individuals with no opportunity to interject, but instead compelled them to listen attentively. Grandma's cleanliness and tidiness were renowned. Her cleanliness was not only reflected in her immaculate attire and perfectly arranged hair, but also in the spotless and bright tables, chairs, and benches, as well as the orderly interior decor. It was further evident in the often overlooked dark corners that most people easily neglect, such as under the table and cabinet, in the corners of the walls, behind the door and under the food steamer, and inside the bucket next to the stove, where cleanliness surpassed even the external appearance. In my memory, Grandma never went to burn incense or worship Buddha, yet she strictly abstained from meat. Not only did she refrain from eating beef, mutton, chicken, duck, or fish, but she also never even tasted eggs, involving any of these. One summer during the harvest season, while Grandma was cutting wheat, a wheat awn got stuck in her throat. As my uncle and father recounted, Grandma immediately threw down the sickle, stood up, and said, "Whether you continue harvesting this wheat is your business. I will never engage in farming again." The next day, she rented a storefront in the county town and opened a Zhang family steamed bread shop. Within a year, this Zhang family steamed bread shop became renowned far and wide. When my father was young, during an argument with Grandma, he wanted to show her a little lesson. He took a pig-killing knife and a rope, stabbed his own ankle bone and tendons, then looped the rope through and hung himself upside down on a forked tree branch in the courtyard. If such a scene had occurred with an ordinary mother, she would have been terrified, at the very least shouting and screaming. However, my grandmother, witnessing her son's foolish act, calmly and disdainfully pointed at her own neck and said, "Son, stabbing your ankle is nothing remarkable. If you want to stab, stab here next time. After saying this, she completely disregarded her own son hanging upside down on the tree as if nothing had happened and walked away. My father, watching Grandma's receding figure, was completely conquered. Instead of giving Grandma a little lesson, she ended up giving him a little lesson. My mother held great respect for Grandma and often exclaimed to me, "If your grandmother were a man, she would pierce a hole through the sky." It is vulgar and intolerable to simply describe the extraordinary and unconventional actions of my grandmother. How could she, an illiterate peasant woman, possess knowledge of so many fairy tales? Why would a person who does not burn incense or worship Buddha abstain from meat? In the ever-changing weather of the scorching summer, when the golden ripe wheat must be urgently harvested, why would my grandmother, just because of a minor incident of a wheat on getting stuck in her throat, angrily abandon farming without hesitation? When her own son pierced himself and hung upside down from a tree, why didn't the mother feel any distress and simply walked away as if nothing had happened? It's a mystery. I remember my grandmother telling me, I was in the 5th grade at the time, "Let me tell you about the origins of our family. Take some time to write it down." But being ignorant and playful, I didn't take it to heart and casually replied, "Grandma, let's talk about it later." Little did I know, shortly after, my grandmother passed away. Opportunities once missed may never come again. One misstep became an eternal regret. I lost my roots. As a lost individual without roots, I'm like a drifting duckweed, aimlessly floating on the vast sea, carried by the currents without a sense of direction. I don't know where I came from or where I'm heading. While reading the Bible, it suddenly dawned on me that everything my grandmother did was for my sake. Before Jesus came to earth, heaven sent John as a precursor to prepare the way for him. Before I came to this world, the kingdom of heaven sent my grandmother to enlighten and guide me, who was about to be born. So, who is my grandmother after all? And who am I? Countless sleepless nights of realizations and the wonders of nature have led me to contemplate the profound principles and discover my own roots. I have come to understand why the greatest creator has laid down the 36 8-diagram arrays in the universe and have unraveled the mysteries of deciphering these 8-diagram arrays. Oh, the greatest creator. Your love for me is immeasurable, and even if I had billions of years, it would be difficult to repay. 伊甸园是这样失落的，天启篇之时. The Garden of Eden is lost like this. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Jiejing. I have 2 German shepherds, belonging to the military dog breed. One of them is named Luanbei, and the other is called Lambua. Whenever the night is deep and quiet, I enjoy taking a leisurely stroll on the lawn in my courtyard, which is even bigger than a soccer field, and ponder in tranquility. During this time, the 2 dogs joyfully run around me, both guarding the courtyard and providing me solace. Due to their loyalty, I treat them well. They receive meat every day, and their monthly food expenses are at least 200 yuan. I bathe them once every 2 weeks, and I never scold or beat them. There exists a harmonious and mutually beneficial relationship between humans and animals. 3 months ago, my animal-loving wife brought home a small pet from a friend. Its scientific name is West Highland White Terrier, belonging to the small hunting dog breed. These dogs have a small size but are highly alert and intelligent. They are capable of both being affectionate and understanding human emotions. Due to their likable and adorable nature, they often live indoors with humans and enjoy all the luxuries and comforts of a dog's life. The next day, my partner bought a large circular plastic basket specifically for it, lined with a thick layer of old window screen folded into a mattress inside. The little dog lies on it, and the level of comfort is no less than me lying on a memory foam bed. To address the issue of the pet's waste, my partner deliberately found a large box made of hard cardboard with only a 3-inch high edge. Inside, she laid a layer of clean sand as the dog's bathroom. Everything was prepared, and only enjoyment remained. Unfortunately, this little dog doesn't use its bathroom and insists on urinating and defecating on the carpet. My partner searched for information, sought advice from experts, and repeatedly tried to train and guide the dog, but it remained stubborn and unchanged. Helplessly, We had no choice but to let it spend the night outdoors with Luanbei and Lambwa. The treatment it should have enjoyed has been lost. Who should we blame? Do we as humans also experience the same kind of sadness as our dog? There was a tall and strong African man named Paul. He, along with his spouse and two underage children, lived in a less than 10 square meter room made of old wooden boards, in a very pitiful condition. When I spoke with him, I discovered that he was psychologically and mentally stable. Moved by sympathy and compassion, I invited their entire family to live with me. I assigned Paul to manage the garden and clean the courtyard, so that he could earn a wage through meaningful labor, enough to provide a relatively normal life for his whole family. A month passed, yet the weeds in the courtyard remained unattended, and the flowers continued to wilt. When I was at home, I often saw Paul squatting to weed, but as soon as I left, I discovered he had gone back to sleep. I assumed Paul didn't enjoy this task, so I brought him to the store to handle cleaning and organize merchandise. However, after a week, the dust accumulated, and the store appeared even more disorderly. What is the reason? Upon observing, I noticed Paul spent a considerable amount of time cleaning rags. He'd stand by the sink, dedicating an hour to washing a single rag. Feeling helpless, I assigned him as a security guard at the club, providing him with a brand new security uniform that suited his tall stature. He looked remarkably enthusiastic, unable to wipe the smile from his face. I assumed this would finally please him. I briefed him on his duties, specifically instructing him on handling disruptive individuals and theft incidents. However, much to my surprise, he still didn't put much effort into his work. He would stand at the entrance like a statue. When a thief took the camera, he lacked the courage to even ask a question. Feeling utterly helpless, I had no choice but to ask Paul and his family to leave, allowing them to fend for themselves outside. Such examples have occurred more than 20 times in my vicinity alone. How was Eden lost? It wasn't because God was unjust or the deities lacked compassion. It was because we as humans are unworthy of living in Eden. We do not deserve it. I had a colleague who, a few years ago, begged me to send him an invitation letter to help him do business abroad. Despite the difficulty of the situation, I actively assisted him in handling various procedures. When everything was ready and only the departure for overseas remained, he became arrogant and boastful. In a dark corner with his group of friends, he started devising an evil plan. First, they belittled me, saying, he, a nameless and insignificant pawn in the company, can survive overseas only because of the government's support. If he can survive abroad, aren't we all better than him? They then developed a detailed plan on how to initially rely on my assistance to establish themselves overseas, and subsequently, how to kick me aside and surpass me. Upon hearing this news, I immediately sent him a fax message. There has been a change in circumstances, and I am unable to accommodate you temporarily. Let's discuss this in the future. How was Eden lost? The expulsion of Adam and Eve from Eden had special reasons, but one factor was their own actions, disobeying the rules and taking the forbidden fruit. When individuals face misfortune, the majority of people's initial reaction is to seek various reasons to absolve themselves. They can always find sufficient reasons to blame the heavens, the earth, society, and others, but they rarely look within themselves for the causes. When humanity as a whole faces misfortune, many people begin to blame the greatest creator, gods, and Buddhas, unwilling to look for reasons within human moral behavior. Alternatively, they may pray to the greatest creator, gods, and Buddhas, seeking salvation for humanity, yet they are reluctant to reflect on their own actions and make necessary changes for self-improvement. The old Eden has been lost, and the new Eden has long been established, with its gates open to everyone. My disobedient little dog would certainly not be able to enter Eden. Paul, being lazy and irresponsible, an unproductive individual, cannot be allowed into Eden. Despite my colleagues' active pursuit, their intentions are impure, and I cannot permit them to enter the sacred Eden. The blind cannot see the blue sky, so they claim there is no sky. The deaf cannot hear sounds, so they say rivers have no ripples. Those without spiritual awareness cannot see God, so they say there is no Eden. God loves the humble, and Buddha enlightens those with affinity. As for the rest, They are like Paul, destined to fend for themselves. 从青霉素过敏到舍利子形成，天启篇之八. From penicillin allergy to the formation of Saraira. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Jiejing. In 1999, I drove a Nissan car with my lover and child from Harare to visit Victoria Falls, which was over 800 kilometers away. During that trip, what amazed me was not just the grandeur of the waterfall, but a young European girl, not even 20 years old, who was bungee jumping. Between Zimbabwe and Zambia, there is an iron bridge over the Zambezi River. The bridge is approximately 1 kilometer above the river surface. Standing on the bridge and looking down, the river water surged and huge rocks protruded, making one feel dizzy and amazed. On that bridge, people often came to play bungee jumping. It involved tying a specially designed rope around the waist and feet, and then jumping from the bridge. This jump wasn't from a 3-meter-high wall to the ground. It was a leap beyond the limits of death. Not to mention those who have acrophobia, heart disease, or nervous disorders. 90% of people in general wouldn't dare to try it. Some men could be seen playing bungee jumping, which seemed acceptable, but seeing a delicate and beautiful young girl doing it left people dumbfounded and speechless, unable to break a sweat. Even some men still had pale faces after finishing their jumps. However, when this girl was pulled up to the bridge, someone asked her how she felt, and she excitedly exclaimed, "Wonderful. Oh my." While others were almost scared out of their wits, she found it wonderful without changing her expression or heartbeat. Is she even human? It suddenly dawned on me that this girl's mental and emotional makeup was different from others. What ordinary knowledge considers strange phenomena held no strangeness for her. She treats it as simple, ordinary, and normal. It turns out that people are fundamentally different from one another. Despite all being human, the differences between individuals are immense. Some people are allergic to penicillin, while many others are not. Some people are allergic to pollen, while others are not. Some people are allergic to metals other than gold and silver, while others are not. When reading Strange Tales from a Chinese Studio by Pu Songling and Ji Xiaolan's Notes from the Orchid Pavilion, we discover that some people turn pale at the mention of ghosts, while others, upon encountering a ghost, treat it as casually as they would treat a cat, showing no signs of fear or disturbance. Perhaps some would argue that Strange Tales from a Chinese Studio and Notes from the Orchid Pavilion are metaphorical stories and should not be taken literally. I believe there is some truth to that. However, in broad daylight, when someone puts on a ghost-like mask, some children tremble in fear while others not only show no fear but even burst into laughter. This is a fact. I remember in 1989, after the students in our school watched the movie Painted Skin at a theater in Zhangjiago City, Hebei Province, some of them were afraid to stay alone in the dormitory that night, and they didn't dare to go to the bathroom alone. Yet, many others were completely unfazed. I still remember when I was in middle school, Dongxiang County No. 3 Middle School in Gansu Province. One day, a classmate carried a 1-meter-long snake and stood on the podium, shaking it to intentionally scare the female students. The girls laughed and giggled, but a tall male student sitting in the back row screamed and turned pale. The image of fear from that student is deeply etched in my mind. It has been 30 years, but the memory remains vivid, as if it were yesterday. What's there to be afraid of a dead snake? Yet, my classmate reacted as if he had seen a ghost. Freud or parapsychologists might be able to explain it, but regardless of the explanation, it is a fact that this classmate's psychological makeup is unique compared to ordinary people. On the eve of a life-and-death battle between enemies, some people sleep soundly, snoring loudly, while others toss and turn, unable to fall asleep. Beethoven could compose the Heroic Symphony, so why can't we? Da Vinci could paint the Mona Lisa, so why can't we? Newton could discover universal gravitation from a falling apple, so why can't we? Einstein could find the equation for mass energy equivalence, so why can't we? Because people are fundamentally different. This means that using our own understanding to judge the thoughts and actions of others often leads to incorrect conclusions. In the future world described in the Bible, everyone is free from illness. In the Buddhist scriptures, the Pure Land is described as a realm where everyone lives eternally. In the Life-Genuine description of the 10,000-year world, people can fly. Do we believe in these descriptions or not? After the death of Buddha Shakyamuni, his remains were cremated, and numerous crystal-clear, colorful, and steel-like solid sarira were discovered among his ashes. In December 1990, after the passing of the Singaporean Chinese monk Master Hong Chuan, 480 colored crystal-like sarira were found in his ashes. In 1994, during the cremation of Master Yuan Zhao's body at the Fahua Temple on Mount Guanyin in Shaanxi, his heart remained intact and transformed into a dark brown, hard relic. For the past 10 years, I have been almost free from illness. On rare occasions when I feel discomfort, taking a painkiller quickly relieves it. Why is that? It's not because I have naturally good health, but rather because of my cultivation practice. I have developed a simple and effective method, and the results have been remarkable. When practicing, I am oblivious to extreme cold or hot weather. My mind becomes empty during the practice, and afterwards, my mind is exceptionally clear. The Viagra that can excite human nature, as well as opioids, heroin, and other pain-relieving drugs that can evoke intense emotions and a sense of transcendence, may have no effect on some people. Perhaps you have not heard of this before. In the recent days, in the article, The True Face of Chinese History in 5,000 Years of Up and Down, published on the website Chinese Soul, the author Xin Yuan stated, "The perfect return of the Yellow Emperor indicates that human beings can return to the heavens through cultivation. The only channel of communication between humans and gods is cultivation." The Bible, the Quran, the Diamond Sutra, and the Tao Te Ching all contain basic knowledge. However, many people are allergic to this basic knowledge. Regardless of the content of these scriptures, as soon as they hear the word scripture, they become allergic. Furthermore, some people randomly interpret the scriptures, making the originally profound and spiritually scientific wisdom appear mysterious and unfathomable, causing people to feel intimidated. When the seasonal flu virus arrives, many people may catch a cold, but when SARS strikes, some people will never get SARS. In 1348, the Black Death, a widespread outbreak of bubonic plague, claimed the lives of 1/3 of Europe's population. But why didn't the remaining 2/3 die? When periodic cosmic waves arrive, many people die. Whether you flee to the ends of the earth, dive underwater, or burrow underground, you cannot escape the impact of these waves on your nerves and psychological structure. Only those who have cultivated and practiced to an advanced level, whose nerves and psychological structure resonate with these waves, not only do they not feel the arrival of cosmic waves, but they are also unaffected by their negative effects. If you receive the cowpox vaccination, you won't get smallpox. If you enter Life-Genuine, you won't fear periodic cosmic waves. In the next 3 years or so, perhaps several extraordinary phenomena will occur, and by then, people will understand the true meaning of the birth of Life-Genuine. Are you allergic to penicillin? What are you not allergic to? Do you have sarira in your body? When will you have sarira? People, what are you really living for? Where are you rushing to in your busy lives? What have you truly understood? 意识能听到上帝的声音，天启篇之4. Consciousness can hear the voice of the greatest creator. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Jiejing. In the vast universe, there are billions and trillions of voices, each expressing their own thoughts. As long as we use spiritual perception, consciousness, to listen, we can hear them. Common sense tells us that hearing relies on ears, and without ears, we cannot hear any sound or better understand the intentions of others. However, I advise we discard common sense and explore whether we can hear without ears. Let's start with an example. Helen Keller, an American blind writer, hailed by the Encyclopedia Britannica as one of the most accomplished representatives of disabled individuals in history. She embodied blindness, deafness, and muteness in one person. Despite being deaf, she could hear the voices of others, not through her ears but through touch. She would place her index finger on the speaker's lips, her middle finger on their nose, and her thumb on their throat, enabling her to hear their voice clearly. By placing her hand on a violin, she could hear the melodies played on it. This fact demonstrates that we can understand the voices of others even without using our ears. We can hear through the sense of touch. People with arthritis, as long as they pay attention, can be the first to hear the sound of climate change. When the river water warms up, ducks are the first to know, and sunlit flowers and trees meet spring early. The sounds of spring are first heard by certain animals and plants. Listening can be categorized into three levels. Using ears to listen is the primary level, using senses to listen is the second level, and using spiritual perception, consciousness, to listen is the highest level. What ears hear are the appearances of things. What senses hear are the processes of things. What consciousness hears are the essences of things. If someone says, "I love you," and you hear it with your ears, you perceive a sweet and pleasant sound, which is the superficial aspect. However, if you can feel the sound of love, then love has taken on a process. And if you can hear the sound of love with your consciousness, that love becomes a selfless and enchanting love. The love heard with ears is fleeting, the love sensed is enduring, and the love heard with consciousness is eternal. The supreme love is silent. The supreme love is silent. To generalize further, the sounds heard with ears are often illusory. The sounds sensed are a mixture of reality and illusion, difficult to discern truth from falsehood, while the sounds heard with consciousness are genuine. The loudest sound is silence. The sound of silence can only be heard through consciousness. When a strong wind blows across the wilderness, we can hear the sound of the wind with our ears. When a gentle breeze passes through the wilderness, we can perceive the sound of the wind through our senses. However, there are countless sounds of the wind that we cannot hear with our ears or perceive with our senses. We need to use spiritual perception, consciousness, to listen. On a hot day, if you can quiet your mind and listen with consciousness to the sound of the Arctic's icy landscapes, you will immediately feel cool. On a cold night, if you can hear the sound of the flowing lava from a volcanic eruption, you will not feel cold. In this statement, there's a fundamental difference between what's imagined and what's actually perceived with consciousness. For instance, during hunger, envisioning eating lavish dishes doesn't solve the hunger issue. Yet, when consciousness is used to simulate eating, the sensation of hunger isn't felt. This pertains to a matter of different levels. If one exercises consciously, like Helen Keller did, they will discover many natural mysteries. On a calm, windless night, you raise your palm and feel in all directions. You will notice a cool breeze coming from certain directions and a warm gust from others. Over time, your palm will be able to discern the sound of any object, whether it's directed towards mountains, rivers, trees, flowers, houses, cars, people, or tables. You can hear their sounds. For example, when you hold your palm against a thin book rolled up in your hand, you can sense its essence. Some books emit warmth, others coolness, while some books have no discernible temperature. If you can't feel anything, the reason lies not in the material itself, but in the lack of conscious training within yourself. It's like an ordinary piece of iron that lacks magnetization. It has no magnetism and therefore lacks north and south poles to distinguish between them. If we plug our ears and place our fingertips on someone's lips, we won't hear the person speaking, but Helen Keller could. The reason is that we haven't undergone conscious training. The creator of the universe created human beings, but did not grant us extraordinary hearing. Instead, our range of hearing is limited to 20 to 20,000 hertz. We are unable to hear sounds outside of this range. If we were able to hear infrasound and ultrasound, our days will have no peace. The sound of our heartbeat would be louder than drums. The sound of brushing our teeth would be like the earth shaking, and the sound of drinking water would resemble the roaring of the Victoria Falls. How could we bear such intensity? Everything has a sound. Any movement generates sound. When a jet plane takes off, it creates a deafening noise. However, if the frequency of its sound during takeoff exceeds 20,000 hertz, it becomes silent. In reality, it is not truly silent, but rather beyond our range of hearing. There are certain sounds we cannot hear because we are ordinary individuals, and only a few exceptional people can hear them because they are extraordinary beings. There are certain sounds we cannot hear because we are listening with our ears, while some individuals can hear them because they are listening with their consciousness. The thoughts and activities of the human mind have sound. The processes of conscious thinking have sound. These sounds accurately and unmistakably reveal the inner world of every individual to the vast world. Consequently, the greatest creator also accurately and unmistakably knows the nobility and baseness of our inner world. In Chinese history, many extraordinary individuals emerged who possessed knowledge of numerous mysteries of the universe. They warned us, even whispered words are heard by heaven like thunder, hidden intentions are seen by divine eyes like lightning. Keep your heart pure and your thoughts clear. Desire no guilt in the open. Offend not in the unseen. In all matters, advise against concealing the truth, for within 3 feet above your head, there are divine beings, and so on. They explicitly conveyed to us that any activity within our inner world generates a sound that may be inaudible to humans, but is distinctly heard by the greatest creator and gods and Buddhas, resonating like thunderous lightning. Jesus, Shakyamuni, Laozi, and others have left us with wisdom rather than the mysteries of the universe. Jesus explicitly stated that pearls should not be thrown to pigs, and that he spoke in parables so that those with wicked hearts would not understand. Shakyamuni also primarily spoke for those on the path of the Mahayana. Laozi similarly understood that if the petty-minded individuals were to grasp the mysteries of the universe, it would bring endless harm. Life Genuine has made the greatest efforts and has led everyone to the edge of the mysteries of the universe. Looking at human history, the current state of human hearts is worse than before. In truth, humans no longer qualify to continue existing on this beautiful blue planet. However, gods and Buddhas are unwilling to give up and still want to make one last effort, even though the chances of realizing this desire are only 1 in 10,000. Everything within our inner being is heard without omission by the greatest creator. Similarly, the greatest creator selflessly communicates his intentions to each and every one of us. The reason we cannot hear the voice of the greatest creator lies in the fact that our spiritual perception, consciousness, has become deaf. We have been misled by appearances. Our consciousness is too chaotic and restless, and we lack concentration and focus. Shakyamuni sat under the Bodhi tree for 7 days and nights, fully concentrated, before hearing the voice of the greatest creator and attaining enlightenment to become a Buddha. Any individual who can hear the voice of the greatest creator will undoubtedly achieve Buddhahood. The souls can resonate with one another, and extraordinary consciousness can hear the voice of the greatest creator. May all beings become Buddhas. 知识与智慧，天启篇之九。 Knowledge and Wisdom. Xie Xiefeng. Translation edited by Jiejing. In the movie Fearless, Hua Yuanjia is a master of martial arts. His shadowless fist allows him to overcome enemies, catch them off guard, and make them defenseless. It is an unstoppable technique that leaves opponents unable to defend themselves and provides them no room for counterattacks. The power of the shadowless fist lies in its lack of a fixed pattern. It is highly versatile, constantly changing, and adaptable to any situation. It may seem complex with only one move, yet it contains endless variations and techniques. The shadowless fist is a technique without a technique. If you were to ask Hua Yuanjia, Master Hua, how many patterns does your shadowless fist have, and how can one learn it? Hua Yuanjia would not be able to give you a definitive answer because even he himself is uncertain. The secret of the shadowless fist lies in its embodiment of the essence of martial arts. Regardless of the specific martial art, philosophy, thoughts, or methods, once it becomes one with the Tao, it becomes unfathomable, only to be comprehended through personal insight, impossible to express in words. Confucius once questioned Laozi about the Tao and later said to his disciples, "Birds, I know they can fly. Fish, I know they can swim. Beasts, I know they can run. Running beasts can be caught in a net, swimming fish can be caught with a mesh, and flying birds can be shot down with an arrow. As for the dragon, I simply don't know. It rides the winds and ascends directly to the ninth heaven. Today, having met Laozi, isn't he just like a dragon?" Confucius, a sage renowned for his profound knowledge and wisdom, when faced with the wisdom of Laozi, lacked the ability to fully comprehend it. He could not perceive the limits of Laozi's wisdom because Laozi's wisdom, much like Hua Yuanjia's shadowless fist, is something that is without action yet accomplishes everything. It is elusive, just like not seeing its head when approaching, nor its tail when following. It is like a tiger trying to swallow the sky, with nowhere to find an opening. The Buddha, Shakyamuni, spent over 40 years teaching the Dharma, yet in the end, he stated that he had not truly said anything, nor had he given any teachings. He said to Subhuti, "Subhuti, do not say that the Tathagata thinks, I must expound the Dharma. Do not have such a thought. Why? Because if someone says so, he will truly slander the Buddha and be unable to understand my teachings. Subhuti, when the Tathagata expounds the Dharma, there is truly no Dharma to teach. Yet, this is expediently termed as teaching the Dharma." He went on, circling around, reversing and repeating, but ultimately, he informed us that he had not said anything at all. Wonderful, because Buddha Shakyamuni attained enlightenment. When I was contemplating how to explain the origin of the universe, unsure of how to effectively articulate it, one evening, as I was reading the Diamond Sutra, I burst into laughter. I laughed so hard that I had to bury my head in the blanket and suppress my laughter. I saw Buddha Shakyamuni laughing heartily too, and saw the greatest creator smiling as he walked away with hands behind his back. In the novel Heavenly Sword and Dragon Slaying Saber, by the renowned Master Jin Yong, Zhang Sanfeng teaches Zhang Wuji a unique sword technique. The peculiarity of this technique lies in the ability to forget about the sword technique itself. No matter how many moves or forms are taught, the ultimate goal is to reach a state where, after learning everything, one realizes they haven't learned any specific sword technique. Yet it seems as if they have mastered all sword techniques. In reality, the sword technique taught by Zhang Sanfeng to Zhang Wuji bears a resemblance to Hua Yuanjia's shadowless fist in its profound nature, with the essence lying in the entering of the Tao. The entire universe is composed of different levels of life. We can liken this universe to a courtyard of life, or a home of life. However, to understand the mysteries of this courtyard of life, one must utilize Zen. Zen, in this context, refers to ascending to a state of great wisdom through profound insights into life. The significance of life genuine lies therein. The purpose of the Revelations section is to provide explanations and insights into everyday phenomena, inspiring everyone to gain enlightenment. By extrapolating from specific instances and making connections, one can ultimately enter the Tao. In Revelations, I only write 100 articles, but in reality, I could write 100,000 articles, a billion articles, even countless articles. However, if readers cannot attain self-realization, no matter how much I write, what purpose does it serve? In order to expedite everyone's path to enlightenment, let me provide a definition for knowledge and wisdom and explain their meanings and differences. What is knowledge? It refers to the understanding and experiences acquired without personal contemplation and profound insights. Everything learned from schools and churches, everything acquired from parents and masters, and everything obtained from books, magazines, movies, and television are considered knowledge. What is wisdom? Wisdom refers to the ability gained through one's own brain's contemplation, analysis and judgment, or the perception of the heart. Wisdom cannot be obtained through sight, hearing, taste, smell, or touch. Wisdom is the crystallization of thinking, the child of thinking, and the outcome of thinking. When entering life genuine, one should not focus on acquiring knowledge, but instead strive for wisdom. Otherwise, no matter how much I said, it will be in vain. Silence might be better. The more I speak, the more confused you become. In order to stimulate the birth of wisdom,